Hello and welcome back to the Raspberry podcast. Today I am joined by Rob Long. Rob has a pretty inspirational story. He was serving in the military in Afghanistan when he was hit by an IED and that caused him to lose his sight entirely. Since then, he kind of had a new lease of life when he found Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and in the past year or so has been pretty actively competing both against fully able, fully sighted opponents and then also in the para jiu-jitsu tournament scene, including going to the para jiu-jitsu world championships in Abu Dhabi recently. He's had a huge amount of success in both of those fields. In this episode, we talk about Rob getting into the military, his training, and what he was doing leading up to the incident, the accident, and then the aftermath of that, and getting into jiu-jitsu and up to today. I need to thank Rob for how incredibly open and honest and willing he was to share his entire story with all of the details. It can't be easy to do, and I know that he hasn't really spoken about it, and certainly not to the length and the details that we did today. So I need to thank Rob for being as open as he was. That's really appreciated. There are some heavy parts of this episode, but it's not all like that. He's a very funny guy and he has some very cool stories to tell as well. I really, really enjoyed chatting to Rob. I've wanted to get him on the podcast since I first heard about him. The episode is very entertaining and at the same time very inspirational. I found that it was anyway, and I hope that you listening find the same. Check it out. Cool, man. Let's do it.
Yes.
Firstly, thank you very much for joining me. I saw you probably maybe about a year ago, maybe just under that, after you competed in your first competition. And since then, I've really wanted to try and get you on the podcast. So I really appreciate us finally being able to make it happen.
Brilliant. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's a really, really good opportunity.
Yeah. So, I was saying before how I do it. Let's just go back to the beginning. So let's talk first about your military background. How did you first want to get involved in the military, or how did you first get involved with it?
Well, people of our age, basically all our adolescent life and adult life has been dominated by what happened in 9/11.
Yeah.
I remember being on the bus coming home from school and seeing all the TVs turned around in this TV shop and all the smoke and everything like that, and then got home and seeing the devastation. The world changed at that moment,
Yeah.
The entire world changed at that moment, and it's difficult to put it up, but to simplify everything that happened. But there was a sense that there was a sort of war for our sort of civilization and our rights, and democracy in the Western way of like living had been being attacked. And as I grew up,
So how old were you in that?
I must have been 13,
Okay.
13, 14.
Yeah.
And then as I got to about 16, I'd always wanted to join the army.
From beforehand?
Yeah, growing up. So my dad was very outdoorsy. He used to always take us like climbing and into the woods and stuff like that. And we grew up on sort of like military films and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
The general thing that the cool things that the army sort of does, and it sounds a bit cheesy, but yeah, we're children of like the action era, the 80s.
Yeah, well, I remember,
films
John Hegan was saying exactly that. He's saying like, I wanted to be Rambo.
yeah. So Rambo, and even the cheesy ones like Commando and stuff like that. When you're a kid and you watch it, and
nothing's cooler.
And he's got that like 4 like headed rocket launcher launching out of the back of the car. And you're just like, I want to learn to do that, man.
Yeah.
But on the other side of things, I always had this sort of sense that I wanted to be an elite soldier, and I wanted to I was really intrigued with surveillance and the surveillance side of things, especially to do with counter-terrorism and the sort of war we were facing. And I went down to my local recruiting office and I looked into it, and what you do is you pass a load of tests and you say sort of a general area of where you want to be, whether infantry or like a specialised infantry unit like a parachute regiment or something like that. And they give you what the criteria is, and they make you do all these tests and they sort of vet you. But on the other side, like the recruiting officer was artillery, and so he knew a lot about the artillery, and he was I think they have a sort of bias as well. And once I did all the tests, I got this massive sheet of jobs that I was applicable for. And as I was looking down, there was one called Special OP Battery. And I was looking at that and asked him about it. And he was like, wow, like that's, I didn't know that was open to new recruits.
Wow.
Because essentially when the battery started, it was such a specialist unit. It was formed by a lieutenant colonel in the SAS. And it was at the height of the Cold War. So in 1982, when the threat was the Soviets were going to come over from East Germany, it was going to be the start of World War III.
Yeah.
So he came up with the sort of first line of defence, which was 473 Special Observation Battery, and our goal was the idea was we'd do these subsurface OPs. So you'd get a team of 4 guys. They'd bury themselves under the ground. And when the Soviets, when the hordes of the apocalypse start coming over that front, they were going to be the frontline defence. So they'd be put in strategic areas. So areas of that soldiers would want to set up camp and stuff like that. And so they'd be buried in the ground, and they'd come up at night and destroy
literally
the enemy.
Buried underground,
subsurface OPs. So you'd have a hole underground that you'd have to live in with 4 other guys, and you'd come up and guide in artillery. So at the time, artillery fire was accurate. Like a decent battery would be doing about 50 kilometers, but you can't just fire over a mountain range 50 kilometers into like a village or anything like that. What you need is a guy on the ground right there to be guiding it in
precisely. Yeah.
So they were an elite unit, and obviously once the accurate artillery fire is going to be coming in, they're going to be out with a hunter force looking for these 4 guys, and you're a team of 4 against an entire army, and so you've got to be. The idea was it was going to be World War III, and so the sense I get from it was basically a suicide mission, and they were the guys who were going to hold off the advancing army while we had time to prepare and form a base. And it's a really interesting history. So we go from that, and then the Berlin Wall falls in 1989, I think it was. Sorry, my history is quite bad.
Yeah.
And so then the threat suddenly becomes different, and the task, we still have that sort of 4-man surveillance team that's going to be going in and doing stuff like that. But now, instead of being, because we've not got invading armies and the Eastern Bloc and everything like that is not really the threat, we're now the guys who go in first, gather intel and surveillance on the enemy, and we still have that artillery background where we can call in fire missions, call in support and stuff like that, and assess the situations for the battlefield commanders back at base to decide whether they can form larger infantry battalions or first strike forces to go in and deal with the threat that way.
Wow, so you're like a scout basically.
Yeah, reconnaissance. So it's forward reconnaissance. Our remit.
And you were still 4-man teams.
By the time I was doing it, I was in a 8-man team.
It's still very small.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was still small elite units, but the roles changed. So let me just think. So yeah, one of our greatest sort of achievements was the Battle of Musakala. So in 2007, we did the longest.
When you say we, you mean?
Oh, sorry, no, I mean our battery.
The battery. Okay.
It was a time I joined the battery, but I wasn't on that particular venture because I was still going through the surveillance and target acquisition patrols course phase. So I wasn't officially badged or anything like that to be in the battery, but like the sort of roles we were doing by the time I got there was long range desert patrols. So we did the longest desert patrol since World War II. We did, well, I keep saying we, sorry, because they're my brothers and they're my unit.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the bread and butter of what we did.
you can go for it.
But they did the longest uninterrupted desert patrol around Musakala before we invaded, and that was a massive Taliban stronghold.
Wow.
So they gathered all the intelligence. They got round getting all the key players, assessing where the weak points were, gathering all this intelligence, in small teams, living out the back of Wimics for 7 weeks. So small vehicles, not very much armor or anything like that. And we spearheaded, the strike on Musakala, which was, overwhelming British victory in Helmand.
Wow.
In Afghanistan. And due to our intelligence, we suffered minimal casualties. We were able to get in there and take the area very, very quickly.
Wow.
And so by the time I got into the unit, all the instructing staff and everything like that had come off the back of that, and so it was a really tense time. We'd lost more guys in that. We'd lost half the guys we'd ever lost in our entire history in that battle. Yeah, because it's only a small unit,
Yeah.
It's battery size, so 90 to possibly like at its most 130 blokes, but it's not really 130. But I've never seen, when we were there, because we're all deployed in small teams, you never really get a load of guys back at battery lines. So when I was there was only ever like 20 guys rocking around. Everyone was always on patrol courses or like out on ops around the world and stuff like that. So
that's some serious shit.
It was amazing. The opportunity to be able to do that as a recruit is really intense. But obviously,
you said that. You're saying that the opportunity to do that as a recruit, you were saying that they didn't even know that they offer that to recruits.
Well, it was brand new. I think because of the casualties we suffered and because
they
of
needed to get more people in.
We needed to open it to more opportunities. So just because you haven't served, like it's not tier 1 SF, it's not tier 1 special forces like the SAS, SBS, and SRR, and it's got that specialist title. It's an elite unit, but it's not tier 1 SF. We support those groups.
Sure.
And, so with tier 1 SF, you have to do 2 years at least, or have done a few tours to actually qualify to go on their selection process. But up until 2007, we always had an SAS sergeant major leading the selection process for 473 Special Observation Battery, and then I don't know what the criteria for opening it up was, but it was deemed that because of the actual selection process was so rigorous that if someone could pass it, they're eligible to get into that unit.
Of course.
And so when I turned up, I completed phase 1 and phase 2 training, and I had basic soldiering skills at that point. And the risk was that because it was open to recruits, if I didn't get into that, I was just going to be spat out into the army somewhere. If I failed the selection process, I was not going to get a choice of where I was going to go, and I couldn't really go back to Civvy Street now because I've passed phase 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So wherever the army deems it necessary for me to
they'll just send you.
They'll just send me, and it might end up being, it's going to be a unit where I don't know anyone, I haven't gone through the training with everyone, I'll be this new guy in a new unit who's just come off the failure of this course.
Yeah.
So,
there's a bit of pressure there, or a lot of pressure.
A massive amount of pressure, and it's just the most beautiful job that I'd wanted to do.
Really?
It's elite surveillance. It's how to describe it? Yeah, it's just a great,
It sounds. Before we get onto the actual job, that you mentioned the selection process a few times. Is that like everyone's seen the SAS TV shows where they're putting it? Is it that style of?
So what I was saying
savage?
Before, I kind of got off the route. So it was a lieutenant colonel at the time, Tony Stone, of the SAS, who created this group, and so he went round to. He was commando trained, he was parachute trained, and he was a commander of the SAS. And he basically formulated a smaller selection process that wasn't going to be as rigorous as tier 1 SF, and I'm not claiming it is or anything like that, but it is balls to the wall, nuts course, man. It's got the criteria, like certain criteria that you need to meet. So we've got the hills phase of selection, which is 5 weeks long, and it's same weight. The same weight you have to carry as you do in the selection process for SF, and so you have to do these long navigational, like individual navigational exercises.
So that's just one put on your own.
So you start off as groups. So the first 3 weeks. I'll start from the beginning.
Yeah,
sorry.
The thing is, it's funny whenever I talk to the military guys, it's so sort of blasé. It's so just another part of their day. But for civilians, it's like it sounds completely insane.
Yeah, so I turn up at lines, and I don't want to spoil anything for anyone who does want to do STA patrols, so I'm not going to go into massive amounts of details. I'll just go into...
You're going to paint it very nicely.
Yeah, well, I'd hate to ruin the surprise of how brutal it is, and the brutality doesn't come from anything individual that you do there.
It's the cumulative,
day after day after day when it doesn't stop and your mind starts playing tricks on you. So I turn up day one, and it's open to everyone in the combined services. And so there's 50, I believe there's 52 of us on the first day outside battery lines. And these guys have come from like decent units. So everyone's like, most of the guys have got their wings from like P Company, or there's a few guys there with like commando daggers, like badges on. And then the rest are from like infantry units. There's a few artillery guys, and so 52 of us turn up, and then they just put you through your paces. So you've got to do like the standard fitness tests, and you've got to do a mile and a half in 9.5 minutes. I think it's like 55 press ups and 65 sit ups or whatever, and then they tick off a load of boxes. Make sure you can swim. Make sure you can put a bag on your back and do all that. But then it starts getting interesting after a few days. Like, it'll take you up to the hills, and they'll be like, okay, get out. Now you've got a boot run, and you don't know how long it is. And the one we just literally got out of this van, you've got to run 14 miles in your boots.
Jesus.
Yeah, nice. And
you don't know how long that was.
You don't know how long it is.
They just tell you to run until
you get out at this training area, you're running over hills, and you just follow the leader. And anyone who falls behind, you get RTU'd, you get returned to your unit.
Wow.
Go back. We're going to train you to an elite level, but if you can't keep up, well, I'm afraid that
you didn't make it.
Yeah, I'm afraid you didn't make it, and they're willing to accept, like, people. They want people in the unit, but they need to be able to rely on them.
Yeah.
We're doing forward reconnaissance, so you've got to travel crazy distances as as a dismounted patrol soldier to do reconnaissance and be able to do the job. When you get there, when you finish that 50-kilometer infill into enemy territory, you've then got to be able to do your job, and it's not an easy job. You've got to be switched on. You've got to be in an observation position, taking notes on the enemy, and you can't be spotted, and you've got to take good notes about what these guys are doing. So, anyway, we do you do things like the boot run, and then they sort of get you into hills phase, where they teach you to navigate from point to point. Over large distances, and by the time it got to test week on week 5, I think it was, that's just of the sort of hills phase, we were down to 16 guys.
From how many?
52.
Wow.
And then at the end of test week, we were down to 13 guys. But test week's the easiest it's going to get, and then the interesting part that relates to all this is you come off that and you feel proud as anything. You're one of the 13 guys who's made it through, and like, just to get to this stage, you have the biggest sleep you've ever had in your life, man.
Because that's 5 weeks, that is.
Yeah, 5 weeks.
Of every single day, just
every day. I mean, you kind of come back on the weekends, and you stay in this thing called D block, so you're not part of the regiment yet or anything like that. And all the guys who live in the regiment had this new accommodation built. It's like a 1-bedroom flat you get each, and then you get a cooking area and a living area where you can all live, and it's all modern and everything's kitted out. Yeah. And then the D block is this shack that was built in the 1920s, the 1930s. The roof is leaking, the showers are cold, there's no heating, there's no, the windows are broken. Yeah. It's like Animal House, man.
So even when you're resting, you're not really resting.
Yeah, but that's better than an OP, you know what I mean? You're doing 3 months of an STA patrols course. When you get out to Afghan, you're doing 6 to 10 months possibly of living out of holes, living out of, hard routine. You're not going to be cooking, you're not going to be lighting up any stoves and start cooking your food, because people are going to see you, people are going to spot you, and it's hard conditions. I don't know what this is 10 years ago, so I don't know if there was always the rumours that this place needs to be knocked down because it's a derelict building, it's not safe to inhabit. But I don't know what they're like now, whether they still use that. But it's part of the fun. It's part of the sort of, it bonds you all. And to be honest with you, you're not really there much while what you're doing. Yes, it's just a place to really keep your kit, and when you do want to come back and relax, you you get home sweet home, derelict shed with a leaky hose that's like over your bed. And,
yeah. So you managed to get through all of the training and the selection process and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and you make it into this unit.
Yeah.
So tell me about sort of the first experience actually going into Afghanistan. Because how long had you been training up to it at that point?
Well, I'd passed my SDA patrols course, and then I had roughly a year, maybe less than a year, in the battery, taking up different courses, so specialist courses. So
there's a lot of training involved to be able to do this job.
Yeah, so if I can go back a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
During the selection process, on that week that you get off after the hills, you're doing a lot of courses and stuff like that, and we had a guy who was training in like sort of specialist CQB, and so close quarter battle, being silent, and it was a bit of a combatives program. So
that sounds like some real ninja shit.
Well, I thought that before I got into BJJ and stuff like that, but you've got a guy who's like a permanent soldier, and he was great at his job and everything like that, and he was doing tamijitsu at the time, so that's what he knew, so that's what he taught us.
What is that?
It's a kind of jiu-jitsu hybrid that I think, everyone...
Because you're talking about close quarters combat. You're talking about...
So
this is almost like trench warfare stuff.
Yeah, so dragging people down to the ground, and also one of the...
Fuck.
Yeah.
Because you imagine, like, this is something that in World War One would have been massive.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was all trench warfare.
Yeah.
But by the time you get sort of out of that, it's going to be really, really rare, apart from people who are doing the sort of stuff that you guys were doing.
Yeah, well, even in World War One, there was people doing what we were doing. So with the invention of the artillery, we needed forward OPs. And if you go to the National War Museum, there's this really cool thing. It's this big metal tree that's all like messed up and broken. And so what happened to happen when they were in the trench was an artillery shell hit this tree and broke this tree and broke it in half, and it's quite close to enemy lines. And so the British snuck out at night. They did a picture of what they painted this picture of what the tree looked like.
Yeah. Took
it back to the engineers, and they built this metal tree that was an exact replica of the tree.
Get the fuck out!
Right, and there's this. So they then they get a big enough living space in the tree, and there's a big antenna going up the tree, right? And so what they do at night is they sneak out, cut down the tree, put the replacement big metal tree in. That's now a forward OP right on the enemy like German trench lines.
Wow.
And so now they've got an observer in there, sitting there, and he's just radio in like, hello Zero, fire mission, and then boom, the trenches are lit up.
Wow.
Right? And that's effective sort of OP trench warfare.
Man, there's loads of I was listening to some podcast, I can't remember what it was, but the sort of innovation and technology that comes out of warfare sometimes, because it's sort of such a high priority, and the budget is so big, and they've got these incredible minds working as the engineers. I watched this, I listened to this podcast, which was about, I can't remember precisely what it was about, but basically they were trying to recover this gigantic submarine, a Russian, I think it was a Soviet submarine, and it had all of these details of nuclear weapons and stuff like that.
It had the Enigma code in it, didn't it? Is it that one?
Something like that, but it was 3 miles underground or something ridiculous. So they were sending in like research vessels that were actually these military vessels, so they could basically be within enemy lines pretty much, but having to go underground and trying to lift up the submarine, and like they're getting the most incredible engineers in to create these ridiculous contraptions. Well, some of the stuff is just insane.
That's really what attracted me to this sort of role, is the sneaky beaky aspect.
And the ninja stuff, right?
And also you have the flexibility. It's not so like warfare. There's a saying that plan A never survives contact.
Sure.
And with this sort of sneaky beaky stuff, there's a lot of flexibility and a lot of you're on your own with a 4-man team, and you've got to do what needs to be done to get the job done, and you're in enemy territory, and so you've got to be like on it, basically. You've got to be up to scratch and be able to be flexible and think on your feet. Back to the CQB side of things. So it was tamijitsu. I don't really know what the heritage of it is or anything like that, but there's claims that it's one of Bruce Lee's, like,
everything's connected to Bruce Lee somehow.
exactly. He invented it. He's got a book on it or something like that.
Yeah.
But essentially, it was dragging people down to the ground.
Wow.
And doing like a 4-figure arm lock or wrist lock on them and stuff like that. And
really,
that's not really what we were going to be doing in Afghanistan. But if we needed to do it, you know, if things really went wrong, if your primary weapon fails, then your pistol fails, your backup weapon fails, and for some reason you haven't got your combat knife on you, you know, then well, it's
unarmed combat. If you lose everything, it's just you and someone else.
We were prepared for that, but that wasn't really the reality of what was going to happen. Potentially, I know some guys in the unit. I don't know what I'm allowed to say. 1 second.
I don't know what you're allowed to say.
I'll
so
be
I'll
careful.
You say everything.
Yeah, I know. So essentially, being a surveillance and target acquisition patrol soldier with a find and finish capability, there's going to be times and opportunities where you're in front of the target and you need to extract the target, and you know you don't want to kill that person because they have valuable information.
Sure.
But you're in a war zone.
Yeah,
and maybe let's say you're in a house and there's been times when these sorts of units that I'm talking about, people have been in the people's living accommodation, so the enemy's living accommodation. You'll be in the attic, you'll be like, you know, in there, you've got to wear like, you know, socks over your boots and stuff like that to stop the creaking, because you're living so close to these people and monitoring them all the time. And let's say you need to extract a target, you know, you're going to need to actually know what human body feels like when it's struggling against you. And I'm not saying that our unit necessarily does that or anything like that, but there is potential for units in the British Army and, you know, certain aspects of British intelligence that needs to do that sort of job, and we work very closely alongside them. And the other threat at the time was, as a soldier, you were a target. Obviously, Lee Rigby hadn't happened by this point, but we'd had the IRA and Northern Ireland conflicts where British soldiers were in plain clothes and being snatched off the street.
This is at home.
Yeah, well, Northern Ireland, this is our, you know, Northern Ireland, there were still guys going out and touring Northern Ireland at this point, and the troubles were still going on. And potentially, if situations like that happened again at home, someone snatches you off the street, you need to be able to resist and fight off multiple opponents. And so we did this week-long intensive course of that, which culminated in the 13 guys being paired up, and like other units do, like milling, where it's like you've got to show your aggression and you hit each other without like deflecting or thingy.
It's like no blocking, you just got to go
no
forward.
Blocking. You've no blocking,
just swing.
You've got to swing and punch. And there was guys who had come from that sort of aspect and that background, and now all of a sudden they're being shown how to grapple and everything like that. And the idea was to pair us all off by weight, and then we'd have a sort of grappling match. But because everyone wants to be hard and everyone wants to win, the grappling went out the window. And I remember I was...
it just became a full-blown Vale Tudo match.
It was a war, man. Like I ended up being put against this... I was not as big as I am now. I think I was about 75 kilos at the time, and I was against a...
So very much not as big as you are now.
No, but I was a little bit stocky. I had a bit of muscle to me and stuff like that. And a lot of the other guys, because of the way the course was, they just dropped so much weight, man. So they were like down to like 65 kg, and like they put me up against this guy who was like 16 stone, and he just... I'm expecting to start grappling with the guy, you know what I mean? Like, we've learned how to take someone down and stuff like that, and he just comes straight in, 4 karate chops to the face, bang, bang, bang. I'm like, what? Is this how it is it? All right, well, adapt and overcome, you know what I mean? And we'd learned double leg takedowns, and he was a bigger guy. I hadn't really drilled it properly or anything, and we end up in a mess on the floor, and I'm like trying to take it seriously, like doing the grappling and stuff like that, but you know, I happened to drop a couple of elbows.
Well, this guy just karate chopped you in the face 4 times, so
so I drop
all bets are off pretty much.
I drop a couple of elbows. I hold my own in the sort of round, and I don't know if it was like 2 minutes or 3 minutes, but we just, because it was basically novice white belt grappling. We ended up
with strikes.
Yeah, exactly. We ended up in a kind of just a tangled mess on the floor. No one really knew how to get out.
It sounds like most amateur MMA bouts.
Yeah. Our legs were all wrapped up in each other. I was sort of like holding his hands back, and it ended up becoming like a bit of a silly like pushing contest. But it was a good experience, and it was a sort of start, and there was good opportunities after the STA patrol course to start going more into that, because he was our battery PTI. You know, he was there. He was always there to talk to about sort of close quarter battle and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So you know, once you'd done all of the training, you actually get deployed.
Yeah.
So I imagine that you know from the beginning of your training that's the direction that you're going.
That's where I wanted to go.
You're going to be heading to.
That's what I was desperate for.
Really?
I didn't join the army not to go to war. I didn't join the army not to. And it sounds funny and stuff like that, but you know, the same with martial arts. You can train all you want. You can train every single day, and you can be the best, and you can get to black belt. But if you haven't tested yourself, how do you know? How do you know you're any good at it? How do you know? You know, and it's also that frustrating experience, and you're around guys who have got these amazing war stories. You know, like I said, the battle for Musakala. You know, one of the best British victories in modern eras, and it's a tough battle. We lost guys, and they've got these stories, and you want to be able to, you know, go down and have a drink with them after training and be like,
I've got fucking stories.
You can't be the crow bag who's sitting there, and you're just like, oh yeah, I've never been deployed, I've never done anything, and so you're just desperate to get out there. And there was guys, one of the hardest instructors on me. I won't say his name. We became quite good friends, but he was really hard on me in the STA patrols course. It was, if you'd mess up, he'd just give you that look, and it's just like, Rob, mate, like, why is it always you who messes up? And like, it'd be hard on me, but for a reason, you know. Once I got off and started getting deployed, like, I would say to him, oh man, I can't wait and everything like that. He's just like, be patient, take your time, like, it will come, like, the war's still going on and stuff like that. You don't have to go out there straight away, and you need to be alert, and you need to be on it. And when I came back injured, it wasn't like a case of I told you so or anything like that. It was just like, you know, the pressure I put on you back then, it was because, you know, it's no picnic out there. You know what I mean? It
doesn't sound like a picnic.
No,
for sure.
no, and I didn't go in there with the naivety of thinking it was, but I think he was just sort of explaining himself of like, you know, why the pressures and why the hard, you know, brutality of the sort of training that we did, and the sort of,
well, the trainer has to prepare you. You know, it's like you train how you're gonna, in jiu-jitsu you say you train how you're gonna fight. Well, in the army or in the military, you've got to train how you're gonna go to war.
Yeah, we'll train hard, fight easy. You want it to be, and there were parts in Afghanistan that were a lot easier than training. You know, I'll tell you about the sort of tour I was on in a second. So, I'd done a lot of training for a year. You know, we'd done explosive courses and stuff like that. Learned really nice little details of being a surveillance and target acquisition patrol soldier. And I thought I had quite a long time off. Like, there wasn't any tours coming up, and
you were itching to get out.
Yeah, I was itching to get up, and there was nothing really going on. And then a guy in the battery came up to me, and he's just like, our regimental boxing is coming up. We're going to do inter-battery boxing. And I was like, sign me up for a bit of that. Like, I'm all over that. It's, you know, I haven't been able to prove myself with a tour or anything like that. So,
but I can punch some people in the face.
if I can sort of, you know, go and be good at that and win at that, you know, that'll be amazing. And so I was dead keen to sign myself up for that. And at the time, I was training really hard to get my fitness up with a guy called Sam Robinson. He'd just come back from tour literally 3 months ago, and he was another battery PTI, and he was super like fast and fit and a great soldier. He'd just done 4 tours of Afghan back to back. Basically, he'd come off one tour, have a break, go back onto another tour. He was part of I believe he was part of the battle for Musakala, and he's just a really nice guy. He's got all this experience, but he never shoved it in your face, and he was never he always took care of the younger lads and stuff like that, because we could get ourselves into a bit of trouble with the older lads trying to show off. And like,
sure, you
know, bear in mind, I was a young lad. I was like, you know, 20, you know, 21, you know, wanting to prove myself. And there's that testosterone, and there's all that other things going on. And so I was training hard with him. Signed up to the battery boxing. I was thinking, you know, I'm fit enough to do this. I'm strong enough to do this, and I've got the hunger to prove myself. And then I turn up on the Monday, and Sergeant Major of the unit calls me in, and I go into his office, and there's another sergeant standing there, and I'm like, oh my God, what have I done now?
Yeah, sounds like you're getting called into headmaster's office.
Yeah, it really is. It feels like that every time. It really, like, it is a lot like that in the army. There is a sense of,
because you've got such a hierarchy in there.
Yeah, plus all the lads together and stuff like that. It's secondary school with guns to us. It's like some of the camaraderie and stuff like that. And so he calls me into the office, and it's very serious, and there's this very like sort of solemn sort of tone in the air. And he tells me that there's an opportunity for me to be the first guy out of my STA Patrols course to go on tour.
Wow.
And he said it's gonna be covert surveillance. So I don't know if I told you, but we have two roles actually we had two roles at the time. We had covert surveillance roles, like surveillance and target acquisition roles, and we also had fire support teams. And so because we were attached to the artillery, and we were fantastic at calling in artillery strikes just due to the nature of what we did, we'd be attached to infantry units, and when we'd do the infantry role, and then when the shit hit the fan, we'd be the guys who called in the artillery or the fast air or anything else that was needed, the Kazovacs, everything like that. We were the radio operators, and we'd get them out of the crap essentially, and be able to cause all sorts of hell to rain down from the sky. And I didn't really want that side of things. It's a good role in that, and it's it's a tour, and you get to fight for your country and everything like that, but I wanted to be in surveillance. That's where I wanted to be. And he told me there's a surveillance and target acquisition covert operation.
That was the one you wanted.
Yeah. And he said it's working with Tier 1 SF, Tier 1 UK Special Forces. Do you want it? This is a voluntary role. If you want it, it's yours. I was just like, I was over the moon. I wanted to jump for joy, obviously, like this. And I said thanks, like
to stay cool. Thank you,
thank you, sir. And I went over to shake his hand because I was so happy. Like I went over to shake his hand, and he's kind of a bit hesitant because he knows what this role involves. He knows the high risk of it, and I think he felt like I don't know what was going through his mind.
Maybe you were almost too enthusiastic.
I wouldn't even guess that, but I don't think he wanted to take joy in
sending someone to do that.
You got to bear in mind that Sangin, Afghanistan was where the major war was. Helmand was the Wild West. Where he was sending me to Sangin was the Wild West of the Wild West. We were getting guys every single other day. There was guys getting killed by IED strikes. There wasn't too many people getting shot, but the IED threat, there was 1,000 IEDs in that area alone. A month being laid. That's a month.
1,000 a month?
1,000 a month, man.
Oh, shit.
That was because they had slowed everything down. And so our task was to they called it something very sort of ambiguous. It was an advisory role to go and secure the freedom of movement for the Afghan people. Because you've got to bear in mind, we've got a war over there, but we're not fighting Afghanistan. Afghanistan had a president, President Karzai at the time. They wanted freedom, and the people wanted to move. They didn't want to be like maimed and killed by these IEDs. And so we had to ensure the freedom of movement for those guys in the area. And happy to go ahead with it. Boom, it's on. I'm sorry, no battery boxing. But the other thing was it was rapid deployment. So because of the nature of the work, it was essential that we went pretty quickly. So I had to pack up my life, and there was rumours it could have been a 10-month tour.
Wow.
Usually
tours are 6 months.
6 months, but I think there was rumours that this, because it's a brand new thing we're doing. We're doing a different tactic, and we're using different equipment and stuff like that, and we're working alongside these units, these special forces units that are going to hand the role over to us, essentially. So we needed to, I don't know how to say it, but we needed to basically take over from them, but while there was the handover period, they would be working alongside us. And oh man, all over it. This is what I trained for, and I think it was literally 2 months away. I had 2 months to secure all my life, get everything in order to essentially be away for the next year in Afghanistan. And where was I going with this?
Just on the deployment.
Oh yeah, so what happens is when you get your pre-deployment, you've got to break in your desert boots. You get handed your desert boots. So you go from black boots to tan boots, and you get to wear tanned camouflage uniform now. And we're a small unit in a large regiment. There's like thousands of people in the whole regiment, but we're a very small unit.
Yeah.
And now people have heard about this tour, and the rumours are going crazy. That like this is like this crazy SF tour where you're going to do a 10-month OP in the ground, just living off dirt it was really nice, obviously, being identified as a guy, because you're walking around now
like a badass.
Yeah, like a proper ninja. We even had our unit had a black stable belt. Everyone else had like these colourful stable belts and that. So I'm wearing deserts. I've got a black stable belt on. I'm a badged battery patrol soldier, and I just feel like the nuts, man.
You're like a rock star,
proper rock star, man. I don't care. It was a really super proud moment for me, and you're getting sent off to hell. You're getting sent off to Helmand. And
how you described it was Seamus kind of sent me some information about what you did, and he described it exactly how you described it. It was pretty much the most dangerous place on the planet at that time.
Yeah,
but it's so funny to hear you talk about how over the moon you were to be sent to hell.
Yeah.
It really is one of those things kind of twisted. You were just like in some way I get it.
The level of training, you're a black belt, and you want to be sent to the best competition in the world.
You want to go to that ADCC and fight world champions.
Nogi ADCC world championship against the best in the world, and you don't want to be at some little local. Not that there's anything wrong with being at local level competitions or anything like that, but you feel like that's where you want to be. That's where you're going to make the best impression. That's where you're going to be, and I was proud. I'm proud of my country, you know what I mean? And I worked very, very hard, and now I've got an opportunity to fight for my country as well. And I don't know how to say it, but it was a really proud moment. I felt like I was doing something, and I don't remember for a long time or ever in my life before that having that sense of satisfaction, and having that sense of oh man, I'm actually doing something important and making the best of this life that I've got. And so I'm walking around like a rock star, feeling the nuts, and there's guys with multiple tours and stuff like that looking at me you get out of here, you idiot, and it doesn't matter. You can't wipe the smile off my face, mate. And we're with my unit now, with my patrol team, and you're basically locked off and isolated from the rest of the world. You're doing your pre-deployment training. You're going all over the country doing different things and working out the mission that you're going to do, and linking up with the SF guys and stuff like that. And sorry, I kind of lost track of where I was going.
That's all right, man.
So Sam, he's a guy I can really talk about on this. He was like my big brother on that. He's I can't really mention the other guys' names because they're still working.
That's fair enough,
they're in this sort of world. But it was a really good team. I was really happy with it. I was happy to go to war with those guys. And,
which must be such an important thing, I know all of the guys that I've spoken to, especially the episode that I did with Sebastian Younger. I don't know if you heard that one. He was a war journalist, and he spent time in Restrepo with these guys, and kind of talk about that camaraderie and how important it is, and how important it is when you're going in, especially I can't even imagine when you're going in with teams of six people, how important it is that you need to basically be one, almost a hive mind. You've got to be as one person instead of individuals. Speaking
of that, so that was some of the funny stuff about training. I mean, if there was ever a unit that was going to train you to be blind, it was 473. Really? So we essentially always wanted to work in the dark. So our patrols over 50k with a house on your back and all your operational equipment basically, and everything like that was all done at night. By the time daylight came up, we were blending in with the trees, we were blending in with the grass, we were blending in with whatever was around us.
Wow.
And but obviously the high risk was being caught, and if you're caught in a 4 to 6 man team by an army, you've got to be the most vicious. It's a fight to the death.
Really?
And with Afghanistan, I mean, with the Russians and stuff like that, if you were caught, and a little bit with the Iraqis, if you were caught, you'd be taken back, interrogated, tortured, and stuff like that. With what was going on in Helmand at the time, if you were caught, it's torture until you're dead, and that was the real risk. So you knew that anything,
and it's a high risk because you're just a small team going around right in enemy territory.
Yeah. And so you had to be vicious. You had to be on point with with your rifles and stuff like that, and all your firearms. And like I say, so we were trained to essentially, if we were not being seen, we had GMLRSs, guided multiple launch rocket systems, I think it is, which is like
those are rocket launchers.
Yeah, so they're not with
okay.
But we didn't have them, so they would be based like 50k away, 60k away. And with our skill and what we were able to do, basically we could guide one of those rockets into a space probably smaller than the bathroom window.
Get out.
Yeah. So that was, our primary sort of
ability. If you got encountered by someone, your main weapon would be.
Well, we didn't want to be encountered.
Oh,
we were doing our
not.
job. If we were doing our job right,
you never did. But
hell would rain down from the sky. Chaos would ensue with the enemy. They'd be running around like headless chickens while bombs are falling on them,
and they'd never know where you were coming from,
and they wouldn't know what was going on.
But if it came down to it, you could basically hit someone with a fucking rocket from 50 kilometers away.
Yeah, so that's what you. Yeah, so that's if it's going crazy. If you've got a high priority target and like the shit's coming in, and you do that, and then, but obviously, if that's failed, you can't do that. You haven't got time to do that. You've got your primary weapons, so you've got your team. So you've got like a mini-me gunner and or maybe a GPMG gunner, and you've got your SA-80, and that fails. You've got your sidearm, that fails. You've got your bayonet, that fails. You've got your hands, and so we're trained to go through all those sort of key aspects of conflict and fighting. But our main role was surveillance. Like, it's not like we were this crazy unit that just goes in and Rambo's it or anything like that. You had that aspect of training, but
you guys were ninjas.
We were ninjas. If we were doing our job right, depending on what the priority was, we'd get in and get out, and no one would even know we were there.
Yeah,
and so that was the training task. And like I say, our role by this point was to protect and help the people of Sangin and help them live a free life in hell. The rule in Afghanistan is whoever's got the biggest gun, it makes the rules. Whatever tribal leader and mullah is around, he makes the rules. And you've got the guys, the Taliban, coming down from Pakistan through the mountains and stuff like that, and then you've got them covering for Al Qaeda and protecting Al Qaeda, and there's just this endless supply of extremists who, and you end up killing them. They've got someone in their family, 5 more pop up, and now it's like it felt like a sort of never-ending battle at that point. And that wasn't my patrol's role wasn't to go in there and do that. We were there tasked to help the people. And so where did I get to? So we're about to be deployed. We're going out there, but we're halfway through a tour. So because it was a rapid deployment, the tour essentially, the British Army had been going on, Herrick 11 had been going on. It was halfway through. It was 3 months into it by this point. And so we're flying over there, not with people who we knew, but like journalists and other, I say other, there was a SF unit on the plane with us as well, like a massive amount of Tier 1 SF guys.
Wow.
Yeah. Flying over there with us, and they're all in plain clothes, but I'm not SF or anything like that, so I don't get to go in there in plain clothes. So we stood out like a sore thumb in our deserts and our standard issue like helmets and stuff like that. But once so we're flying into Kabul, and it just looks like a standard like freaking EasyJet liner, you know what I mean? And we're all on
it's just a normal plane.
It's gutted out, so there's more seats and it's more cramped and everything like that, so they can get a lot more people.
More cramped than EasyJet.
Yes.
So it's like Ryanair.
Yeah, 16. Yeah, exactly, man. 16 hours to Kabul, man. In that,
Fuck.
And then you got all.
I can't imagine you have any in-flight movies or anything.
No, nothing like that. Just a book. Good, get some reading done. And it's good to read anyway. Like,
it is.
It was, but yeah, so we come down, and obviously it's nighttime in Kabul, and like all the lights go off on the plane, and you don't know who's journalists really, like, and who's SF. But then as soon as the lights go off, everyone's got to put their helmets on.
Yeah.
And all the SF blokes, man, they've got these luminous helmets, so they've got like, they put their helmets on, and they've got all these lights, and they've got like target finders, night visions, like almost like augmented reality, like lenses that come down and do all this mad stuff, and you're just like, oh.
I want one of those.
Yeah. You're like, first of all, you're like, I want one of those, and you're like, oh, well done coming in plain clothes.
Yeah.
If you're gonna just stick that freaking astronaut's helmet on anyway, man.
Just cyborg helmet.
Yeah, you're just like, yeah,
it might be a bit of a giveaway.
Yeah. You're definitely doing something out here. And then we go to Bastion. We get from Kabul to Bastion, and Bastion was, you know about Bastion? It's
that's the main. Yeah,
it's the main like super. Like,
it's like a city, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing, man.
Yeah,
the feeling you get when you go there. So you've got all the coalition forces there.
Yeah, because it's Americans are there as well, aren't they?
Danish, Americans, and the Danish. They're allowed to drink, so they've got like a Camp Viking. So they've got like they're
Camp Viking.
Yeah, man. So the way Bastion works is you got like the British side, which is very British. It's all neat rows of tents, very somber. It's very like,
some tea maybe.
Everyone marching around and doing what they need to do, and then you got Camp Viking, and there's this big like, you know, like a Wild West corral.
Yeah,
like it's this big massive like sign like atop of it. It says Viking, and like they've all got cans of Carlsberg and they're drinking, and they're also like, they are the most handsome, beautiful freaking army you've ever seen.
Really?
The Danes are all like,
6'5".
They're all like 6'5" John Paul Gaultier models.
Yeah.
And then the women all look like Lara Croft, and they've got like, they're allowed to walk around Bastion with their sidearm, and like there's just and it's mad. It's completely mad. And
do you guys ever sneak over there for some Carlsberg?
No, you
get in trouble.
I don't want to drink in the desert, man. It's like,
I can't imagine anything worse.
And plus, you want to be operationally effective and stuff like that, not taking away from whatever the Danes do. I think that's
working for them.
Yeah, it's working for them. They're fine if they need that chill out and relax. But with the British tendency to drink and what we get up to when we drink, especially the squaddy's reputation.
Probably best not.
You don't want firearms, drinks, high testosterone.
Lara Crofts.
Yeah, Lara Crofts, and you just don't want it, man. So, but the other side is that like you're there in Bastion to sort of acclimatise as well. So you get spend a week there to get used to the desert heat, and they've got the best of everything, so the better food than you've ever tasted in your life. So the cookhouse is for everyone, but they've got
this is the Americans or the Danish?
Everyone.
Oh, everyone.
So everyone goes to the same massive cookhouse.
Okay, yeah.
And they've got like croissants and like this big, massive, like long dessert like buffet, and they've got like all different foods. Like they've got salmon and everything, and it's like you're having your final meal before your death, man. But it also feels a little bit like that scene in like Pinocchio, you know, when they go to the island of like where everyone's just having like, you know, it's chilled out in Bastion because Bastion's the safest place on earth, and you're being fed well and everything like that. And so
it's like this mirage almost in the middle of the desert.
Yeah,
you've got hell all around you, and then you have this like utopia.
Yeah, and so we're in Bastion for a week, and we get told where we're going to head to. And
you didn't know at that point that you were going to Sangin?
We knew we were going to Sangin. Okay. There's a lot of different FOBs and operating areas in Sangin, and so we were going to go to forward operating base, lovingly named Camp No Legs. Yeah, that's the sort of dark humour that you've got. Yeah, it's because obviously it's essentially like a lot of guys lost, maimed and killed. Yeah, so we're going Camp No Legs, and but what ended up happening was they were getting so much. They were getting so many firefights, and they were getting so many rockets and everything. They essentially deemed that you can't get there by helicopter. So we were talking about, you know, essentially getting there by vehicle, by other vehicle, or, you know, getting as close as we can, foot patrol there and stuff like that. And it was deemed that it wasn't going to happen. And then there was other places that we could go to. Sorry, I haven't really talked about this ever. So it's I'm just trying to recall the memories.
Absolutely,
of how it was. When we did finally get to go out to the fob, one of the fobs. Obviously, we're in our small team. It's just a Chinook for us and our equipment. And we've got plenty of equipment because we're going to be out there now. We're not going back to Bastion, so we've got to carry like all our equipment that we're going to need for the whole tour.
For the whole 10 months.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think it was and then I think the tour was like coming down to 6 months. Then we realised that like there were other things, and it was just going to be a standard tour. And so we had this underslung net, so this big, massive net with all our equipment on it that hung from the bottom of the Chinook.
Yeah.
But what had to happen was they removed the bottom of the Chinook, so you're strapped to the wall of the. You're strapped to the wall.
This is like the truck, yeah.
No, the helicopter.
Oh, helicopter.
The Chinook.
Okay.
The one with the two propellers.
Sure, yeah.
At the top, and so you're strapped. To the wall.
So you're strapped in.
You're strapped in, but there's no floor to the Chinook, and.
Yeah. It's just a net with your shit in it.
Just a net with all your mission critical equipment and stuff, and then you're strapped there, and you can't use your rifle. Your rifle's like strapped next to you like that because you know hell is going on below you and stuff like that, and you can see firefights and conflicts and stuff like that. But
it's like the most extreme glass bottom boat that you've ever been in your life.
But you can't then like grab your rifle to start shooting indiscriminately out the helicopter as much as you want to. It was
so I guess that was your first experience of seeing firefights, right?
Oh well, in Bastion you can sort of see what's going on. So there's a training area out the back. So where we were based by the helipad, and because we were a small team, we didn't have we weren't in the big regimental part of Bastion. We were just in this tent quite close to where the MERT teams, the medical emergency response teams, would land. And obviously with what was going on there, you'd basically see the helicopters coming in, day out, all day, man, with guys coming in from all over Afghan, broken, horrific, no arms, no legs, fresh off the battlefield, people's faces have been degloved, is what it's called, where the IED goes up, all your skin, comes off, man. There's
that's why they make you feel comfortable in your first week in Afghanistan, right?
Yeah, exactly. So,
just stick them right next to the most horrific stuff they're going to see.
Yeah, well, you can take it, man. You're a soldier, you know what you're going to do, and you put it to the back of your mind. In a sense, you're like, it'll never happen to me. I've got to be alert. I'm highly trained. I'm going to do my job, and you can't think that's going to happen to me, man. I'm going to get my face degloved. Yeah, and
that's crazy because it's so interesting to hear you talk about that, because obviously how effective your training was to make you have that mentality.
Yeah.
When you see stuff that other people without that training are going to go, fuck, okay, that's kind of terrifying. You're going to go, okay, well, it's not going to happen to me.
Well, human beings can cope with more than you expect when you're having to deal with it. I think it's the after effects of coming back, and when your mind takes away that block of what happened, because you can't go there. You can't go there and be like, oh fuck, that's going to happen to me.
Yeah.
When we were there, there was some guys who'd just come back, and there was this really young kid, man, and there's a showering area, and I was in the showers, and you hear this heard some sobbing coming from the showers next to me. And you knock on the door. You all right, mate? He's just like, I don't want to go back.
Wow.
I don't want to go back. And he's like, he has to go back. He's got to go out there. I don't want to go back. And I get some of the older patrol members in who are better, a bit better at dealing with this stuff than me. And they're tough guys. And during training and stuff like that, they're very stoic characters. We had the captain who was on there, he was a legend. He's one of the battery legends. I can't say his name, but I was so privileged to be in a team with him. He was the scariest man in the unit.
Really?
He's this big, intimidating figure, and he had a nickname. I won't even say that just in case it gives away who he is. But everyone was terrified of him. He's a big stoic character, and he went in there. He talks to the guys. Talks him down, and tells him what he's got to do. And the guy goes back. He wipes his tears off, goes back to his unit and stuff, and faces another day out there. And I wasn't really thinking like that or anything, and I hadn't seen obviously anything that bad by that point. I'd seen the guys coming back, and it's not nice, it's not pretty, but like I say, you've got, I don't know what it's called, cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
I think, where you've got to block it out, man.
Sure.
You can't be looking at that and being like, man, I'm going to come back with no eyes, no legs, no face. My brain's going to be damaged. I'm going to lose my soul out there. I'm going to see things that you don't really come back from.
Yeah.
Just grab a drink.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that it's got to be pretty crazy. I guess that's the whole point of the training, is that you they're turning you into robots. That's the whole thing when you say, like, you turn someone into like a soldier.
Well, it's an unpleasant fact of what we've got to do.
You've got to do that.
If we're not doing that, do you know what? 7/7 in London would be happening every day. If there's not people to go to those training camps and take them out and stop them from doing that, 7/7 is going to be happening every day, and you're going to get a regime in the world that wants to control you by any means necessary, and will control every aspect of your life, how you live, who you love. Every single aspect of your life will be controlled if there isn't people protecting that freedom, and freedom comes at a cost, I'm afraid. And some people have got to go and do unpleasant things and be part of the sort of the reality of human beings who haven't quite found a way to be stable on this planet. Essentially, human beings haven't evolved in tens of thousands of years. Our brains haven't evolved. What has evolved is culture. So we've got different cultures around the world, and some are more stable, and some flourish, and some allow freedoms, and some parts of places like Afghanistan, which are essentially lawless. Like I said before, the rule of law is whoever's got the biggest gun makes the rules. And people don't want to live like that. So it was down to us to go there and make sure that they could have democracy and freedom, and not be coming over here and bombing us. Sorry, I've got completely lost.
That's all right. So kind of we were just talking about sort of your first deployment out there.
Okay, so
you were traveling on a helicopter with
that's where we were. Yeah. Back to the fun stuff. Sorry, mate. we were travelling by Chinook out to our fob, and it is scary because like you can see everything going on. You're high enough that no one's going to really shoot you. But the other thing I was supposed to say, I'll go back quickly, is you asked me about firefights I'd seen and stuff like that from the training area in Bastion. Like there were still patrols going out, so you could see artillery fire, especially when they would fire. So what would happen is they would fire a loom up in the air, like a big light on a parachute, basically a big bit of phosphorus, and it would reflect off the top of the parachute, and it would make everything underneath it daylight.
Oh, really?
And so you'd fire these artillery shells, and it would light up the village, and then obviously you could go into the village and then do what you needed to do. That wasn't what we did because we didn't want to be lit up. But you could see those firefights going on. But in Afghanistan, the light is, because it's quite high in terms of like sea level and stuff like that, and there's no cloud cover. There was this thing that was going across the sky every night. I was looking at it and I was like, what is that? It can't be smoke every night in the same place. And you know what it was?
Go on.
It was the Milky Way. No. You could see the milkiness of the Milky. You could see our galaxy. When you look up, you could see our galaxy, and its sort of shape, this sort of little snake of milk going across the sky, where obviously the cloud, the stars are a bit more clustered in that area, and the stars were so bright.
Well, I guess it's all to do with light pollution, isn't it? You know, I've been out in. I went to Jordan a long time ago. Went into the desert there, and you look up and people don't realise, if they've never been out into the middle of nowhere, what the sky actually looks like.
It's phenomenal. It's
beautiful.
Black.
It's incredible.
Ink black. The stars are like proper diamonds in the sky. And then, like, the other thing is, I don't think it's the light pollution necessarily. I think it's where you're in the desert. The water, moisture can really affect. I think when there's no moisture, like it's almost like less atmosphere between you and like the sort of layers. But so we saw that, and then that part of Afghan is beautiful, and the rugged terrain. And you know how like people are coming back, soldiers are going back to Vietnam now, and they're like that place was hell. I hated it. I couldn't appreciate like what it looked like and the beauty of the place and everything like that. And now they're going back, and Vietnam is like one of the most idyllic, beautiful places on the planet.
Do you feel like that would be the same for Afghanistan in the future?
I'm still on a lot of forums of veterans and stuff like that, so I haven't really got that impression yet. But if I'm the first to say it, you know, I'm the first to say it, and I've lost my sight. But I thought there was parts of Afghanistan that were beautiful. Yeah, the stars out there were beautiful. Even the mountains. I love mountains, man.
Yeah, me too.
Obviously, being like a recce soldier and stuff like that, that's where your home is, that's where you're trained to live, that's what you love, man. The mountains are brilliant because you can get lost in the mountains, and they have mountains out there, man. They have real mountain ranges. And sorry, where was I at? So we're flying over in the helicopter, and then we come to the fob, but we're a massive target. You know, it's a Chinook with this big thing strapped underneath it, dangling down, and there's a big hole underneath the Chinook, and you can just see us all sitting there, you know, with our little seatbelts on,
strapped in.
And I hear these pops, and then oh no, that didn't happen first. Sorry, remembering it wrong. So what has to happen is a guy has to lean over the hole. He has to crawl to the hole, lean over, and make sure where the net's being landed, it's safe and it's not going to be like pushed into a river or dangled down or anything like that. And so you got like one of the Chinook crewmen. He's looking over the edge. Obviously, we're really low down now because we're landing in a built-up area, and he looks over the edge, and then like it's like ping off the side, and he has to crawl back. He's like, "Yeah, it's safe. Drop the net.
It's safe.
It's safe." And he drops the net, and then you hear basically the Chinook has countermeasures for rockets and stuff like that. And so it starts deploying. It's like flashes and flares and stuff going off. And then when we got down, one of the guys on the other side said he saw like rockets being fired and stuff like that. It's like, welcome to Afghan.
Jesus.
You jump out, and then obviously the forward operating base we were in, I didn't have much of a briefing about what it was, but it was it's fairly small, and not many people in there, but you instantly jump up and you're manning the Sangers. So the guard towers, they got a GPMG in it, and you go up and man the Sangers, and basically make the fob safe and make sure that, you know, no one's doing any follow-up, because their biggest objective, obviously one of their biggest objectives, is when they see a helicopter come in, they want to take down that helicopter, because first of all, you're possibly going to be taking out a patrol. Second of all, you're going to be taking out a highly trained pilot who the British have invested a lot of money in. You're going to be taking out a crucial piece of equipment. So whenever the helicopters come in, they're really
it's a big target.
It's a big target. That's obviously why we couldn't go to fob no legs. And the helicopter got out there really quickly, and it was gone, and you're just like,
just you now.
It was like, there goes the cavalry, you know. It's us in the middle of the Wild West.
So was that you were dropped off with your five other guys? That's it.
I'm just trying to think of how many guys were in this patrol. Can I just, sorry, I know it's a bit boring, I'm just going to count in my head. One second.
That's fine. No problem.
Six guys, and then a couple of other guys attached from specialist thing, SF guys and stuff like that. So basically I think it turned into like an 8-man patrol, but
tiny.
But it wasn't just us in the fob. There was already like an infantry group there, and so they were going, and we were there to obviously essentially help them. One of our other roles was overt surveillance, so stuff that people could see, you know what I mean? So essentially extending the eyes and ears of the fob. And that was some of the scariest work. Like the covert stuff's fine because you're sneaking around, no one can see you, and you're doing your job right. But the overt stuff, that's when things got like a little bit hairy.
So what sort of stuff would that be?
So we had these part of our equipment was and this is the overt stuff, so I'm okay to talk about it and everything like that. It's not really giving away anything crucial, but we had these big large CCTV cameras, and you could stick them out quite far from the fob, like really far from the fob. So if they're planning an ambush, and there's like a group of guys coming off, we've at least got some warning.
Yeah.
But getting out there, going outside the wire with all this big equipment, you know what I mean? And we're not going there with lorries. We're not driving around in vans and like bringing these things. You've got to carry the equipment.
Wow.
And so you've got to carry the CCTV cameras. You've got to carry the stuff to mount them. You've got to carry the spool of like fiber optic cable to attach it to, and stuff like that. And have you ever seen what's that sniper film with Jude Law, where he's Russian?
I don't.
Enemy at the Gate.
No.
You haven't seen it? Oh man. Well, there's this one scene in it where
I'll have to go watch it now.
yeah, there's this one scene in it where the guys are like, because it's World War One. It's based on World War One, and they're reeling out this spool of radio cable.
Yeah.
It's just two of them, and the fiber optic spool was basically essentially the same thing. And in the film, the two guys get shot by the sniper. Right, so. We've set up a few of these cameras and stuff like that. These overt ones that people are meant to see.
Yeah.
And someone, sneaky guys coming around at night and cutting the cable.
Okay.
So during the daytime, we're going out and we're trying to figure out how to mount it so that no one can get it. And so the idea is, put the cable across the top of the compound walls.
Yeah.
But to do that, you've got to go against every single bit of your training. You don't want to ever like silhouette yourself in the sky.
Yeah.
And so we're up on this wall, me and Sam, and we've got the big spool of thing between us, the big fiber optic cable, and we're reeling it out, and he's shifting back on this compound wall, like it's between your legs, and you're really high up, and you're looking around, and you're just like, I'm exposed to everything in the world. And there's there are snipers around. There are Taliban snipers, and we get 2/3 of the way across this compound wall, and he goes, ah! And I see, and oh fuck, you've been shot, because like you hear with gunfire, like obviously bullets travel quite fast.
If they're from far away.
Yeah, if from far away, sometimes you can, the bullet can arrive before
the sound does.
Yeah, and I'm like waiting for the crack, and he's like, I'm like, have you been shot? And he's like, you've gone completely red in his face, and he's like, just come on, just get on with it, just be careful here. And he pointed, and there was like this needle sticking up from the wall, man, and it had gone right up into his nuts. It had gone properly up into his nuts, man.
Oh, Jesus.
And like he was being quiet. He didn't scream. He took it, man. He took it like a man, and he carried on. And so we
gritted his teeth.
Yeah, gritted his teeth. And so we get this spool across, and it's high. And now the cable's secure and everything like that. And we get back, and he's just like, man, you got to. He gathers everyone round. He's like, guys, you got to check for me. He's like, has it pierced the nut? Has it pierced the nut? And we're like, all right, mate, all right, get it out. And the whole his sack is black from from the bruising and stuff like that, man. And just like you're like, oh, for God's sake. But one of the things I know, man. I know.
So I can feel it now.
Yeah, it's rising in your stomach, but like it hadn't pierced it. Luckily, it was just completely bruised. But one of the worries was what they do is like up on these compound walls is they put needles up there with like Hep C or Hep B or something on there. There's massive HIV problem over there. Massive drug use problem. HIV won't.
There's a lot of heroin there, isn't there?
Yeah, well, HIV luckily won't last long exposed in that. So that wasn't the biggest worry at that point. And that was that really. But that was fun. But checking out each other's nuts and stuff like that. It sounds a bit. You got to do it, man. You're the only people there for your brothers. But for the battery, that's nothing. So again, like I say, with OPs. So what you got to do with an observation position is once you get to the OP, you are living in that hole for a week. You're not going in and out of the OP to go to the toilet. You can't come out and be like, oh guys, everyone, stop the war. I need a toilet break. You're in an OP, so every bit of waste you have to carry with you, and so a lot of the guys essentially in the army, like I've told you everything we've done, but in the army, whenever you say 473, first thing people say is, oh yeah, you're the guys who crap in bags, right? Like, yes, that's us. That's us.
Just like highly trained elite ninjas. It's mate. Oh, you guys shit in bags.
Yeah, you shit in bags, man. And that's not what we do. If you want me to go through the details, I can.
There's a lot more.
There's an art to it, man. Because obviously,
oh really?
Like, you're in
to shitting in bags.
Yeah. Because you're in a hole. You're in a hole, right? And there's no toilet there or anything. And a bag's not going to do any good. What, you're going to tie it up and then like no. So what you do is you get cling film, right? And yeah, man, you get cling film.
I wasn't expecting this, but I like it.
I know.
Like
it's part of the beauty of. So you get cling film for the guy who needs a toilet. He pulls down his cax and like he squats in front of you, and you've got to make sure that it goes on the cling film, right? And I had my eyesight for 23 years, and I was privileged in the last year or so of my life to see many a man crapping in front of me while I held out some cling film. I know, some cling film for them, and then wrapped up their neat little parcel, and then they put it in their bag, and that's that. There was one OP we did where I know, man. There was. I've just blown it, haven't I? All my stories of like valor and heroism and like what I've been doing and stuff like that.
You know what? That sounds more heroic than anything I've heard so far.
Well, it gets worse because you eat these things called biscuit browns in your rations, and when you can't eat like hot food or anything like that, biscuit browns become like your go-to because you're just bored and you need to eat something. Yeah. But they really stodge you up, man. Like, and so you don't go for like 3 or 4 days, and then all of a sudden, like you've got to go and you've got to hold like a lot of cling film for the guy, man. As this
two layers of cling film.
Yeah, this dark truncheons coming out the back of someone. Sorry to get so graphic on you, but like this dark truncheons coming out the back of the guy, and you're just like trying to wrap it up and keep it neat and try not to get it anywhere or get it on your hands or anything like that. And
the true dark side of war.
Yeah, exactly. But you got to carry all that stuff with you. And we were in this one OP, and what we'd done is made this because you know urinate a lot more than you're gonna crap.
Yeah,
and so you don't want to be carrying like loads of these bottles away with you, you know what I mean? So we got, for the patrol, we made this makeshift like it was like an oil drum that we cut out the middle. You stick all cling film with it, so you've got the top and the bottom, and then you've got like this plastic in the middle that can fold down and crunch down, and so you can just put that in your Bergen and then go to the patrol. But while you're in the patrol, like you're filling it up slowly while you're in the OP. And after 3 or 4 days, we had filled this thing pretty much really high. And we're in the OP, and you got 4 guys in the hole essentially. So you got one guy guarding the door, staying awake, making sure at the hatch that like no one's coming in, and he can wake everyone up. He's the first line of defense. You got one guy at the aperture, looking out, doing the surveillance work, and 2 guys getting rest.
Yeah, and
you can start going crazy after a while because you're not moving, man. You know what I mean? You're not moving or doing anything, and we filled up this urine thing, this urine pot. And we've got a day left of the OP, and I'm next to the guy in the aperture, and I can just hear blah, 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 blah. And he's been to the toilet, but he's forgot to put the lid on, and so the plastic has like crumpled down and like let all the like the and we're all in our sleeping bags, man, and it's just filled up the OP.
Oh
no, mate! And now we've got to spend another 24 hours covered in everyone's piss, man. He's got to spend 24 hours like that. And then by the time we got out the OP, we were stinking of death, man, like proper death. We smelled like dead people, and it wasn't nice. And then you've got to do your exfil as well, so you got to then you've got to tab the 50 kilometers back to base or whatever it is, honking, proper honking.
That first shower you took back must have been a good one.
Oh, beautiful. I've never felt it like anything like it. It was like a cold shower. It was like there's no like heating in these training areas. British Army have got to, save money where they can, budget cuts and all that. So they don't give any heated. Cold shower and beautiful.
The nicest cold shower you ever take.
Yeah, but also because you got your cam cream on, it doesn't really come off with cold showers. So you're like ripping your face apart to get it off, and also being in the OP and stuff like that, you're in like the wilderness and you're laying there, and the heat and your breath attracts like ticks and stuff like that.
So you were bitten to hell as well.
Bitten to hell, and you got ticks all down your legs and everything like that, and like you got to then the guys you got to go over each other basically. Like very bonding, very close. You got to go over each other with the tick tweezers and
so these are the ticks that very into your skin.
Yeah, they nestle onto your skin, and they live there, and they suck your blood for a week. And because you're the only source of heat and blood and stuff like that, they go into the OP and they just eat you alive, man.
Jesus.
And then obviously they've got things like sepsis and like all sorts of stuff on them. So you'll look after each other like little monkeys. Like at the end, like you have your shower and you've got to groom each other, get all the ticks off, and look after each other. Like it's.
And you were saying this is the best job in the world?
Oh man, I love it, man. It's swings and roundabouts, isn't it? You're not just going to get everything, and
absolutely.
the bonding. There's no like your brothers, your absolute brothers. Like these are my brothers, and like, I'd run into a hail of bullets for them, and it's been proved that those guys have run into hails of bullets for me and each other for. There's nothing like it, man. There's nothing like it, and that's another hard thing about. When you come out the army is I'm not saying you can't have friends like that.
It's not the same though.
But you're not put in those situations where it's
impossible. You're never going to be. You're the whole point. The nice thing about living in a country such as England is that you don't have war in your doorstep.
No.
There's always going to be wars, but those wars are luckily for us. Civilians in these sort of countries, those wars are happening somewhere else. So your life is never gonna be in constant threat. And this is kind of what I was talking to Sebastian Younger about, because he has this book called Tribe. Have you heard of it?
Yeah.
Have you read it? Have you listened to it
yet? No.
I recommend it. It's really, really good.
It's on my reading list. I've heard about it, so I'll just grab a drink.
Yeah, no, go for it. And it's kind of about, he was a war journalist, and he did a lot of study about PTSD, and basically a study into the majority of people who suffering from PTSD never saw action. Yeah. Because it actually isn't what you... sorry.
Yeah.
That feels better now.
Yeah.
Instead of them having that PTSD because of what they've seen, it's actually the losing that bonding.
Yeah.
How people in scenarios, not even soldiers, but civilians in war times can actually, like people were happier during the Blitz in London than when it wasn't going on, because they were, that threat created that bonding and stuff like that, and you can't create that when you come out of the army.
No. It's the weird thing about it, and if you could flip a switch and say you could go back there now, like there's a war on, you've got your sight back, you can go back into hell, I'd do it in a heartbeat, man. Like, it's a bit different now because I've got a kid and I've got a partner who I love dearly, and I wouldn't want to sort of do that now. I didn't have that sort of lifestyle back then, but there's such a part of me that hungers for it, that wants to go back there and live on the edge. And I've never had a good night's sleep like I have out in Afghan. And it sounds strange, but there's like, we were out there at the same time as like I think 4 or 5 Commando were out there at the beginning of our part of the tour, because they were Herrick 11, I believe, and they would go round every night with like 50 cal on top of a vehicle, and you could hear them thundering around. There's crazy contacts going on all around the fob and stuff like that, and there's nothing I can do about it. And if the fob it's harder when it was quiet to go to sleep, because you knew like if something was going on, they were there. And the other thing was, where we were in the fob, where we were a small team, we didn't have the habitats that the infantry guys did. They had all these like basically bomb shelters that were like ballistic proofed bomb shelters, but we all wanted to stay together, and there was nowhere we could really go in these fobs where we'd be together, because all the places were already established. So we just lived in this tent together, and obviously the threat was mortar strikes and everything like that, and we didn't have any protection against that, but we'd rather be together as a unit and a team than live in and sleep in different accommodations from each other in these areas, because it's much more important. It's much more important that when you wake up with these guys and you're bonding with these guys, and they're your brothers, man. They're everything. They're everything out there. They're your support. They're your life. They're your family. And I can't go into it more than that, really. And then, so another sort of aspect of what we did out there was that PB I mentioned as well. We the patrol base I mentioned. There were some gnarly patrol bases out there at the time. The other thing I want to say was one of the other experiences. I got into a vehicle, Mastiff it was, and it was the only time I got into a land vehicle in Afghan. but the back of it had already been hit by rockets.
Okay.
So the doors were like hanging off the back.
Yeah.
And so just so you're not exposed to everyone, someone's got to be on the back of the door.
Holding it close.
Holding it in. Obviously, I'm the youngest member of the patrol and everything
So it
like
was
that.
you.
My job.
Yeah.
My job. And, oh man, every time this thing went over a bump, I'd be like flying out the back of it. And then, I can't remember what the guys were saying, but they were all just laughing at me. I can't remember what the banter was, but like, I was just getting the absolute piss ripped out of me. It was fun, man. It was really fun. You're in these high, crazy situations. You know, if this back door gets hit again, I'm the guy flying off, and like I'm the guy who's going out. And we get out at this like gnarly patrol base that we've got to sort of protect and we've got to do an area of operations, like a mission around there. And this place was sketchy, man. It was literally like 4 walls, a small hut in the middle of it. There was the guys who were based there. There was only like 5 of them, 1 Sanger, and there was holes in the wall where people could just get in at any point, and it was far away from the fob. And I felt for these guys, man, because like, you know, they were in such a like much riskier situation than I ever was while I was out there on that tour. And that must be, I can't imagine the tenseness of every night knowing that the people who want to kill you can crawl through any of these holes at any point, and you've just got to be alert, and there's only like 4 of you. So
but you know, you bring up a word that I've kind of been thinking since you first started telling me what this unit does. That tension.
Yeah.
You know, you're in enemy lines, you're covert, you're sneaking around, you're doing ninja shit. There's got to be that constant feeling of you can never relax, you can never switch off.
To a degree, but you're so busy with the work that you're doing.
You don't think about it.
You don't think about it. So you're trained to constantly look out for signs of the enemy and stuff like that, and cover yourself and do your job to the best of your ability. And so much goes into that. It's like I guess to bring it to martial arts and stuff like that, there's so much more that goes into like sort of a black belt BJJ than just obviously taking someone down and doing it. You've trained, you've got every single move on you, like you've got so many moves under your belt. You've got a lot. I don't know if it is a sort of relevant analogy, but I don't know how to say it. But you've got.
I understand what you're saying.
You've trained. You've had all this training, and I don't
know. I'm like coming at it from that civilian mindset.
Yeah.
Whereas for someone with that training, it's completely different.
It's once you've trained, that's all you're kind of looking for the contact essentially, and like doing your job. You want to do the job to the best of your ability, but you didn't sign up to the army not to fight, even though I was in a surveillance role, and you're kind of happy because you know you're the deadliest guy out there, and you've got the deadliest team out there, and if they come to you, they can't. The Taliban, and even the highest level of Taliban, I'm not underestimating the enemy or anything like that, because they were tough, and they had elite soldiers themselves. I hate to say it, but you have to respect your enemy, and they had some good soldiers, but they couldn't take on a British soldier 1-on-1. That's why they had to lay 1,000 IEDs a month in these areas to slow us down. If we got into a firefight, like the battles that the British Army had with the Taliban, we'd annihilate them. We'd annihilate them, and you know, you've got that. You can't ever underestimate your enemy, but you've got that
confidence.
You've got that confidence going in that I'm going to win. If we get into a contact, and our fire drills, our contact drills as a unit are top notch, because obviously, like I said, how vicious we have to be when we're contacted as a 4-man team. We have to fight for our lives to get out of there, and so a muscle memory, the amount of rounds we've laid down before we've even gone out there, the muscle memory of you've got contact right. What you do at the start of when you've got a contact is you've got to fire an initial shot. So there's a shot firing at you, and you've got to fire an initial shot in that area to get the guy's head down and stuff like that. But as a battery, if that shot comes, because of the muscle memory and the amount of rounds we've laid down, that shot, if they're a couple of 100 meters ago, even that initial shot and that turn, bang, that target's going down.
Wow,
that target's going down instantly. The majority of times, 99 out of 100% of times, depending on what the situation is. And then obviously the follow up from that. And like I said about it training you to be the best, person at being blind. Well, our other contact drills. So, we've got to pull up in like heavy areas. There was a training course that we went on where we had to get in civilian vehicles and get to a training area, get to an area of operations. And so we're all in the back of this transit van, and you jump out because the transit van's now been contacted. You jump out and you've got to know what to do instantly.
Yeah.
So let's say the transit van's been contacted, but there's a car behind. You can't open one of the back doors. Now you've got to know what to do as a team instantly, and you've got to work together. And so you rehearse and rehearse and rehearse of all these different scenarios until you can do it without thinking about it.
Yeah.
Until every single scenario is gone, and so you could do it blindfolded. You jump out of the back of the van and you know which way you're going to turn. You know where the enemy is. You know if these other situations prop up, all these other whatever happens, you're ready to deal with it. And we were that sort of unit.
Wow.
Where was I? I don't really want to go over the whole of the sort of my Afghan tour and stuff like that. But
so kind of
Can I go over one more incident?
Absolutely,
Before we get to kind of what happened to me.
Yeah.
So I've explained the sort of high level of training we have.
Yeah.
But there's another side. We're all trained as basic soldiers as well. So there was a lot going on at the time with IEDs. I got after that truck. What I wanted to illustrate was a couple of days afterwards, the same vehicle, a different unit was using it. It was not the exact same vehicle, but the same model.
Sure.
I don't know if you remember in 2010, an IED went off and it got flipped over into an irrigation ditch, and they couldn't. So it's a water ditch, and they couldn't open the back doors, and obviously no one could get to them to recover the vehicle. 6 men died in the back, drowned.
No.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm never getting in a vehicle again. I'm never getting in one of those vehicles again. I'm a dismounted patrol soldier.
Yeah. You said you barely use vehicles.
Yeah, we barely use vehicles as it is, but with the nature of Afghan, how fast you have to move sometimes. But when you go into a vehicle, you're giving everything over to the driver of that vehicle.
Sure, yeah.
So you've got to rely on his situational awareness, and he's not going to be from the battery. He's just going to be a driver. He's going to be a driver, and there's nothing wrong with that. And there are some great drivers out there. There's great logistics guys out there.
You don't have that trust you do with your team.
I've been with that guy. I don't know him. He could be straight out of phase 1 training, done his driving license, done his heavy vehicle duty license, and now he's an Afghan, driving a vehicle round, and I'm in the back of it, and he could be 18 years old, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't want to give my life over to that. And what a way to go, the training I've had and stuff like that. If I'm going to go, I'm going to go out on my shield and, not stuck in the back of a freaking vehicle, drowning to death.
Wow, that's terrible.
It's terrible. And my heart goes out to all the families of those guys and the people they loved. And that happened just down the road from me. And that was the one time where things that happened out there really affected me in terms of my operational ability and my ability to put things to the back of my head, because I was determined not to get into a vehicle after that. And then a couple of days later, most of the guys in the FOB were out most of the guys were out on patrol, and an IED goes off and a stretcher comes in. There's 2 guys. They've lost their legs, they've lost their arm, and they come into the FOB. And we realise as they get closer, they're Afghan National Army soldiers. Yeah. And straight away, Sam's because there's one medic in the thing, Sam's okay, bring them through. Sam and our patrol sergeant jump into the medical room, medical bay, and start dealing with those soldiers. I jump up onto the Sangin. Another guy from the patrol, there's a 50 cal on the top of the ops room, and you always want to be on the 50 cal, and it's in a freaking beautiful area, so it's high up on the ops room, and so he's got the view of the whole FOB with the belt fed beast, man. So anything that comes up,
it's 50 cal belt fed.
Yeah, 50 caliber, the big.
Yeah, it's a big old gun.
Yeah, it's a Mahusiv thing, and anyway, the FOB. Defend the FOB, the helicopter comes in. We know, there's going to be obviously follow up because they know that someone's injured and there's a helicopter coming in. So the ideal thing is to defend the FOB. Yeah. Helicopter comes in. The 2 guys shipped off, and then the FOB is defended, and we come down, and Sam has got like quite a bit of blood on him and stuff like that, where he's been like undoing the tourniquets and stuff like that, and dealing with the guys, and you know, because you got to undo the tourniquet so they don't lose the whole leg,
Sure.
because you've got to get a bit of blood flow in there and stuff like that, and he's been squirted with blood, and that wasn't for a British soldier, that was for an Afghan National Army soldier, a guy who's like, you know, he's not British or anything like that, and Sam jumped straight in there and he did the job of a British Army soldier, and he got covered in blood, and he knew the risk of that is that these guys have high possibility of HIV.
Yeah.
Turns out they did have HIV. He's been covered in that blood, so now obviously he's got to get tested, and we've got to wait for the test and everything like that to come back, but that's something he has to deal with, and none of that stuff that we did there was our primary role, that elite level of stuff. That's the basic level of like what a British Army soldier should be doing. And that was one of my proudest days, where we weren't doing our elite, you know, sneaky beaky going out at night and finding the bad guys stuff.
But just helping people,
man, helping a militia, an Afghan national force, saving their lives, helping them build their own country, and doing the job of a British soldier. And he jumped straight into that. And that was that really. So I don't know. Was that interesting or anything?
Absolutely, yeah. You know, it's just a, you know, especially when I'm listening, I'm sure when other people do, it's just so interesting to kind of hear the mentality of a soldier, and how it's just so alien to anything unless you've been in that world. It's just everything you say is kind of fascinating to me personally.
So there's one. Maybe I'll get back to it. There was another story I could. I'll save some more stories for other things. But there was. It's kind of related.
Go for it.
Oh, so it was we were having a sort of quietish week, and you get antsy, man. Like, and there was another patrol soldier who was my age, who'd been on the course with me and stuff like that, and there was a bit of a pecking order issue and stuff like that. We were friends and everything like that, but we weren't getting on as great as we could.
Sure.
And so the older guys wanted a bit of sport, and we'd been watching Spartacus, Blood and Sand.
Okay.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen a bit of it.
Yeah, there's nothing to do out there, so we'd just like binge watch like Spartacus, Blood and Sand.
Yeah.
And in this fob, there was a empty swimming pool, right? And the guys wanted a bit of sport.
Empty swimming pool, Colosseum.
Yes, it was like a Colosseum, man. It was like a concrete. It was like I can't remember what they're called, like the
amphitheater.
Yeah, amphitheater. That's the one. So you could all sit around the edge of this pool. And it was an empty pool. And
I've always wanted to, just, you know, on that note, I've always wanted to run a jiu-jitsu tournament in an abandoned swimming pool.
Mate.
I've always wanted to run one.
Yeah.
If someone knows an abandoned swimming pool that would make for a good jiu-jitsu competition, you hit me up. Yeah.
This was the
one.
So this is the one. It had a big tyre truck in the middle, right? And it had all these dead scorpions dead lizards down the bottom. And we thought, they just dried out in the sun, so we sweep up all the dead lizards and stuff like that, because the guys wanted a bit of sport. They were like, you've got to sort this guys out, guys. You've got to sort of establish some sort of pecking order. And we're in the army, and I know it doesn't sound the best and everything like that. We weren't going to stove each other's heads in or anything like that, but we just needed to sort out
that's human nature.
What was going on. And the best time is sometimes, you know what, I'm going to grab you, you're going to grab me, and we're going to there's no arguing about this. We're just going to establish what the order is.
Yeah.
And so as we're sweeping up, I look at the side of the pool, and it wasn't the sun that was killing these lizards. It was scorpions on the side, man. And they were like alien. They were like these see-through things. And you know, with the scorpions that have got the small pincers, they're the ones that are deadly, man. Yeah. They don't need their pincers to like rip things' heads off.
Yes.
So it was like this see-through alien sort of. You could see its organs like through its skin, and it had this little tiny needle pincers and this horrible looking sting on the edge.
Jesus.
And so we swept that away and everything like that. Mate, you're not going to stop the fight. You know what I mean? It's on now. We've both committed to it. You can't be like, oh no, there's insects. Just
like these guys having a bare knuckle match. And, there's just a surrounded by a load of scorpions ready to take out the loser, eat the loser for dinner. Yeah.
So the rules were established that like you're going to have a fight, but you can't just ground and pound each other. You're not looking to break each other's ribs or make someone operationally ineffective.
Yeah.
it is a fight. You can use jiu-jitsu, the 1 week of jiu-jitsu that we'd had in the patrols course, and you can also punch each other, kick each other, and do that. And so we square off in the bottom of the swimming pool, and man, it's this big truck tire, and I think, you know, we're just going to start grappling. We're not just going to start hitting. And he just runs at me, man, and he jumps on the truck tire, right? And it springs him up in the air. So now, like,
something out of on back or something.
Mate, it was proper on back, and he tries to do this flying knee in my head. But I don't think he expected to go so high. I think he thought the trajectory would drive him forward into me, man.
Just not over the top of you.
He springs up like a kangaroo, like in the air, man. And his flying knee sort of like glances over my head, and I'm able to like hold him and like swing him to the side. And I'm like, I don't really want a pure bare knuckle like striking each other like going off. So I grabbed him, because I've always kind of been more of a grappling fighter than I have, like, it's just where my comfort zone is because of my size and stuff like that. Like, if I can just pin someone down quickly and grab them and do it. Not that I knew jiu-jitsu at that point, but that sort of style of fighting. So I grab him, and what I'd done was, because I wanted to look hard and I knew they were taking pictures and stuff like that, I'd taken my t-shirt off, so I'm just in my camouflage trousers, my boots and my t-shirt, and I've been working out and I've been on the Afghan diet, so I was ripped, and I was just like, I'm gonna show off. But once I grabbed his back and he dropped to the floor, I was now on my back, and I had my t-shirt off, and it was just a concrete floor, and he's just walking backwards, man,
sliding your back,
skin on my back. It's not matte, man. It was just ripping off. But obviously, I had his back, and he didn't know any back escapes or anything like that. So just apply the sort of kind of crap white belt, rear naked choke,
like a Hollywood movie rear naked choke.
Yeah, exactly. So it wasn't anything impressive, but I got him to tap, and, you know, the dust and everything like that. I think it was more of a dust that was getting in his lungs, who could hold out the longest, you know what I mean? But I got him to tap, and that established, like, sort of, it was a bit of fun. It broke the tension. We were both good mates after that, you know, give each other a hug, and he's just like, all right, are we going to cut the crap now and stop doing the snidey little bitchy comments?
Just the straightener.
Yeah, because otherwise when you can't sort it out, you end up just bitching at each other, and it gets pathetic, you know what I mean? So you still need to do that, and
I think that's one of the reasons in jiu-jitsu academies there's like not a huge amount of animosity, because you just all beat the shit out of each other, and you get that pecking order is established.
Yeah, you know what's going on. And apart from that, I do the culture of BJJ and stuff like that, and where it's come from. There is just so much of a chilled out heritage of you know what happens, and what you say happens on the mat. There's none of this, like, I haven't seen it anyway in my experience of like anyone being too mad and too out of the group and the family dynamic of BJJ.
It happens, but it's very rare, thankfully.
Yeah. So let's get to let's
let's
the nitty-gritty.
Yeah. So how long into your tour?
4 months. 4 months, I think this was. It's the height of it's from spring, and now it's the height of the summer. It's July, so it's coming up for like it's very soon. The anniversary. It was. I look on the TV, and a couple of days before we go out, and Raoul Moat is going round shooting people at the time, and he ended up blinding a policeman called PC David Rathband. He shot him in the face with a shotgun, and it completely blinded him. And I remember seeing that on the news, not knowing that I was going to suffer a similar fate. And so we're doing the covert side of things now. We're going to an area of operations that we'd been in before. It wasn't a crazy area. It was outside the wire. It was an important area. We had a mission to do there. I'm not going to go into what the mission was, but what we didn't know was that it kicked off there the day before. Another unit had been through, and there'd been a major firefight there the day before, and we're trained to take different routes and stuff like that, not go over the same area twice, especially anytime soon, because obviously booby traps and stuff like that. But the unit had used that area as a cut through to get back to safety and stuff like that. So now that area has been booby trapped, obviously unaware to us. We're going in there blind, pardon the pun of And it's before first light. We're going out in the dark. That's how we operate. And we have our breakfast in the fob. Nice meal. I think Sam has like scrambled eggs and stuff like that. And get all our gear ready. We're going out at night. I feel happy. I'm going out and doing the job I want to do, and I'm not relaxed or anything like that. We go on patrol. As soon as we get nearer to the area of operations, we see these two kids. Must be about 8 to 10 years old, and the Taliban at the time, it's not unlike them to use children to do their dirty work. They'll bring out small girls with them on patrol and just hold them up as human shields, man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's what we're going there to stop, that sort of mentality and that behaviour. These kids don't know what they're doing. They're like 8 and 10. They're on a motorbike. What freaking 8 and 10-year-old has a motorbike? You know what I mean, man? Yeah. And like cutting about at like before first light. They drive off, but we know we've been spotted. And I think it's quite urgent what we're doing. So we're quite close to the area anyway. We just crack on, get on with the mission. We know what we're there to do. Any sort of hesitation is just going to put the next people in danger, and also it's going to cause a lot of problems. And so we make the decision to push forward, expecting either an ambush or something like that. We get to the target area, and I can't go into what we were doing in the mission, so it's because I don't know if I'm not in contact with the unit and stuff like that, and I don't know if it's going to put anyone at risk or anything like that.
Don't worry about it. So
the light's coming up now, and it's the last sunlight, last sunrise I'm ever going to see in my life. And at first light, the call to prayer comes out, and they pray 5 times a day, and it's like an alarm clock for all the guys who are gonna want to kill us as well. And I don't know if you've ever heard the call to prayer from a proper mosque when it comes out, and it's that sort of, it's almost like a cry, like a long war cry. It feels like, for me, it feels there was something going on, and I felt like it was like a war cry going on, and I felt a bit tingly, and it all gets a bit blurry here because I got a serious head injury.
Of course.
So the long and short of it is an IED goes off, killing Sam instantly. And obviously I was close enough to feel the love. And and my left eye, this one, got blown out on the battlefield straight away. Do you mind if I show you?
No, go for it.
Yeah, if you're not squeamish.
No,
like that.
We'll find out.
Yeah, exactly. So look away now, kids. If you're squeamish, I've got a prosthetic eye.
Yeah.
In that one,
which looks great, by the way.
Yeah,
it really does.
They've done a really good job.
You wouldn't even guess that wasn't real, to be honest. So
there's a bit of bone missing up here.
Yeah,
and so my left eye got smashed straight away.
Yeah,
hanging out, my head destroyed, and my combat helmet had been split in half, like. Just completely, it was useless now. My head was completely messed up. Like I haven't got that much scarring or anything like that, but like the impact was quite severe. I had a brain bleed, and a lot of my face was messed up from flash burns and everything like that. I think my shoulder was dislocated, my jaw was either broken or fractured. Everything around here was just fractured mess, and got a few burns and stuff like that, but they're just minor injuries. So I and another guy in the patrol was injured as well.
Do you remember
So what I have is flashbacks.
Yeah.
I have flashbacks of certain bits. So one of the guys in my patrol who was the first to sort of deal with me. So we actually had a quad bike out with us on there. So and we had a guy on the quad bike. And so one guy wrapped my head up. He's just like, "I'm so sorry, man. There's not much I can really do."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like my eyes are hanging out my head and my face is fucked. And he just wraps me up. You know, my helmet's off. I'm in enemy territory now, and I can barely see anything, and everything's just a mess and a blur. And so I don't think the pain had kicked in by now. Just
your body's in shock.
My body's in shock. I don't know I don't know what's going on, but I jump on the back of the quad bike, and you know, it's a bumpy journey. Everything's just, and like, I'm bleeding out from my face, and get back to the fob. And by this point, when I get to the gates, I don't even think I can stand up anymore, and they get me on a stretcher, and I remember like the pain kicking in at this point. I don't remember the pain, but I remember thinking, "Don't scream, don't scream, don't scream."
Yeah.
But mate, there's only so much you can take, and I'm back at the fob now. So, you know, the guys aren't. If I make noise, the guys aren't going to be
in danger. Yeah.
In danger. Obviously, there was enough noise from the blast anyway,
Of
but
course.
you don't want to be adding to that. And screaming, man. You know, my fucking eye's been blown out my head. Jesus. Fuck's sake, you know.
You can't even get your head around that.
Yeah,
you know?
So I'm on the stretcher.
You know, I stubbed my toe, and you like grab your toe, and you're like, "Oh, I hope I haven't chipped my nail or something."
Yeah.
I can't imagine what it's like. You had your eye blown out of your head, and
I got my eye blown out my head, and I start screaming, and the guy next to me, he's a really good lad and everything like that. He holds my hand. He's just like, "Don't scream, man. Like, don't worry about it. Just don't be screaming. Like, it's cool. We've got you at the matter of fact, look, because I'm panicking other people now by screaming, and like I shouldn't be screaming. You know, no one's going to hold it against me or anything like that. But the right thing to do is not scream.
I don't know if there's a right thing to do in that situation.
Yeah, and he's just trying to calm me down, like, chill, because no one can do anything if you're just screaming or anything like that. He's like, chill, man. He holds my hand, he's squeezing me. I remember flashes of him, like, so I remember flashes of him like above me and dealing with that. And I get to the sort of med center and stuff like that, and then on my face, everything's starting to swell up by this point. My jaw's all fucked, and everything on my face is fucked. And they give me a morphine lollipop. And
is that literally a lollipop?
It's like a lollipop you get from the sweet shop, like one of the dipstick ones. It's like red and circular, like one of those, you know, the things the lollipop ladies hold. It's like that. It's not like a big ball, and you have it, and it's just morphine, man. You know what I mean? Makes the pain go away, and that's the last thing I remember. And it's kind of, I won't. So the rest of it is what goes on hearsay. So I get flown back to Bastion, and what I didn't say was our patrol was split by then. So there's our 8-man team had been split into two, and then there was some other people at a different fob and doing a different mission. But our sergeant flew back to Bastion, and he's there waiting for me. And I'd seen guys get fucked up by, like, you know, there's people who got fucked up, like, who carried on serving and stuff like that. So there was a guy, when I was on the Sanger, protecting the Sanger, I look over, like, at the guy next to me, and his teeth are all fucked up, and his face is all, like, messed up. Sorry for swearing so much.
That's
it's
okay.
Just
no, of course.
A bit high intensity.
Yeah, go for it.
And I'm like, what happened to you? And he's just like, I got shot, like, the bullet deflected off my body armour. He's like, the round deflected off my body armour and went up into my face. I was like, nice. And he's still like, he's just like, yeah, this is Afghan, man. You know what I mean? I'm not like, you know, my arms and legs aren't off, so, you know, I carry on fighting and stuff like that. And there's another like sergeant out there, a grenade, underslung grenade from a rifle had gone off on the wall next to him, and it had like messed up all his face there and cut all his neck up, and he had severe scarring. He carried on, and so I'm in Bastion, and I'm like, this is the best hospital in the world. Yeah, they're going to heal me up. I've still got my right eye. That's my shooting eye, man. Like, I can carry on. Like, I'll be out of here. And I'm saying to my sergeant, he's just like, you were saying to me, like, you're going to be back out on patrol in like 2 weeks. And he didn't really have the heart to tell me, you know, mate, you ain't coming back. You ain't. You're pretty messed up. Yeah. And they don't really. Yeah. And And so I'm still like, I'm coming back, man. I'm coming back. I'm not leaving my patrol behind. And I'm not doing that. And I don't really remember any of that, but that's what he tells me.
Sure.
And so they fly me back with all other people who have been injured at that time. And what they had to do, because of the serious head injury and everything like that, is the plane has to fly at low altitude. They can't fly you at high altitude.
Because of the pressure.
Yeah. And I wake up back in the UK. Well, I wake up and then I can hear these foreign voices and I can't remember much. All I remember, the last thing I remember is being out on patrol, and because my brain's swelled up and my brain's gone down, and all I can remember is being out on patrol. And and now I'm in this bed and I'm naked, and I've got all these wires attached to me. I'm in a lot of pain, and I can hear all these foreign voices around me, and they're like sort of Arabic voices and stuff like that. And I'm like, fuck.
You thought you got captured?
I've been captured.
Yeah.
I've been captured. And you always kind of thinking about it in training and stuff like that. And so it's kind of always at the back of your mind, because that's one of the things you sort of prioritize, is like how to deal. And you run through scenarios in your head of what you do if you get captured. And now I've been captured. That's all that's going through my head, is I've been captured. And I can see, like, it must have been the morphine and the head injury and stuff like that. And what it looks like to me is I'm in like a villa, like a sort of Arabic villa maybe, and I can see a porch and stuff like that. And my brain is obviously scrambling to identify the situation around me. And I feel like I can see the nurse, and I'm in and out of consciousness, and there's a doctor there speaking Arabic, and I'm like, don't talk to them, listen to what they're doing. Listen, I couldn't understand the words that they were saying. They were coming out, but I couldn't understand the words that they were saying. And I was just like, I don't know how I'm going to get out of here. I don't know where I am. And for some reason, I thought that I'd been taken to a different country. I'd been shipped off somewhere to a different country. And so when the nurse came near me, she was like going to inject me with something. And I was just like, I didn't have the energy to fight her off.
Yeah, but
like,
you
luckily for her, man. Yeah. I didn't have the energy to fight her off. And she's coming up to inject me. And I remember like using all my might and all my energy to try and like just sit up and like grab the needle away or something like that. And I couldn't, man. So I just had to say, like, please don't kill me. Like, please don't kill me. And she's like, what? And I was just like, please don't kill me. Like, I don't want to die. And she's like, I'm not going to kill you. And she had to obviously explain where we were and what was going on.
You were in the UK?
Yeah, I was in the UK.
And they were talking English?
They were talking English. I don't know if I'm not even sure. I presume they were talking English, and my brain's just scrambled.
That's crazy,
yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah, man, because everything was just going on. I really presume they were talking English, and because they're British nurses and doctors, I don't know why they'd be talking anything else.
Yeah.
And I was in intensive care, and my brain hadn't caught up to the fact that like I was completely blind by this point. So I felt like I could see it's a combination of the morphine, and what morphine does to you, it puts you in a dream world where you're awake. So you're completely awake, but with the head injury and the morphine, the craziest things were going on, man. Like
you were tripping, basically.
Proper tripping, man. Like tripping balls. Like, so I'd be awake, and all of a sudden I'm in a club. Like, I'm in this club. And I remember being so thirsty, man. And like I'm in this club, and I'm awake, and I'm like, I know I'm awake, and I'm in this club, and I'm laying down on the bed, and I know I'm on the bed, man, and I'm still in the bed in this club, and this bouncer comes up, and he's like, "You've got to leave." He's like, "You've got to leave." I was like, "I'm so thirsty," and he was just like this giant, like hench dude with a mohawk, and like, and I was like, "I'm so thirsty," and he like reached up his hand, and like his fingernail like disappeared. And like there was like a cup of water in his hand, and then he started feeding me. And this was like the doctor was there, like feeding me water, man. And I'm like talking to him like this nut stuff. Like I'm talking like proper gibberish to him, like telling him like, man, I don't want to leave this club. Like I want to chill out, man. And like where are the rest of the drinks and like everything like that. And then my unit commander, the battery commander, obviously came down to visit me, and the regimental, the CO of the regiment came down obviously to the hospital. I was in Birmingham at this point to visit me, and I thought I was on a plane. At this point I'm like tripping still, and I'm like, I'm on a plane, man. Like,
how long after was this?
this is the first week.
This is
in
still
intensive.
early.
Yeah, it's still early. Probably day 2 or 3.
Okay.
And I'm like proper tripping, and I'm like, oh, do you know what the in-flight movie is? To my CO and my VC, and I'm not using like sir or anything like. Not that they're bothered because I'm obviously all fucked up and that. They're like, I'm like, oh, like, do you know what the in-flight movie is? I think it's like there's a film out at the time about like squirrels, and I think it had like Ice Cube in it and stuff like that, possibly. And like, I was just like, oh, it's not a very good movie. You don't want to watch it. Can I buy you guys a drink? Right? And they're looking at each other, and they're like proper worried that I'm going to be.
Do you remember this?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, man. Like, I remember this. Like, my brain's settling down now. Vivid, man. I can go into all day like the crazy places that I went in my head there. Like, at one point, I was in like the Far East, and like there was like the nurses around me, they were drug dealers, and then like they were like, because my brain's just trying to scramble for anything of how to cope with all the information.
It sounds like a it sounds like a trip. You're like half dreaming, half awake.
Yeah, and like the nurses around me are drug dealers, and I'm like, my family around me by this point, and like I'm like, the nurses are drug dealers, man. The nurses are drug dealers. Are like, they're selling coke to each other, and like they're trying to import coke to the UK. I was like, what do we do about this? And it's.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's like my brain was proper scrambling, and then.
So you just remember flashes of that, or?
No, I kind of remember bits and pieces. I haven't really talked about it, so those memories are sort of dying out now. Yeah. But there's some much more mad things that like were going on, and but what was happening was, because I was pressing the little morphine button next to me, they just had a morphine drip, and every time I felt pain, I'd do it. But I was lying on my back and I was static, so what would end up happening was the morphine would pool in my back. And so I wasn't getting any hit or anything like that from it for ages, and I was feeling the pain. And then suddenly I would shift and move, and I would get the biggest hit of like morphine. I'd be back into dreamland, and it really started to fuck me up. So
wow,
like I could see all my hands and that, and they were like wolf hands, because all my nails were split, and like my fingers were all split up and like bloody from the thing, and like my head, I had itchy head, and like every time I think like I'd do that, like my fingers would fall apart, literally, like it was. And with the morphine and everything like that, I kept looking like I had werewolf hands, and like these cats.
But at this point, you couldn't see anything.
I couldn't see it, but I thought I could.
Wow.
And then the news comes that my right eye is a complete write-off. Like,
was that to do with the brain damage?
Ballistic blast damage. Could have been the brain damage. My optic nerve apparently was severed, and on my right eye, or it just was unusable. And they convinced me that my right eye had to be removed. And looking back on it now, I wouldn't have made that decision so quickly. Even though I trust the doctors and I trust that they're saying it's a write-off, I wish I'd have given my time self to heal, because the thing about surgeons is they're always want to do surgery. You
Surgeons want to do surgery. They want to cut. Yeah.
They want to cut, and like, it's not that I don't trust they were making the right decision based on what they wanted to do.
Why did they want to take? So they did take your right eye, or
so they made the decision. They asked me if they could remove my right eye, and they convinced me to let them take my right eye out. If the eyeball was solid and full in there, but they just had to scoop the whole thing out. They said that there's a danger of blood clots going to the brain and stuff like that.
Well, it's easy to say that you know.
Yeah.
If that had happened, it would have been a different story.
Yeah, I could have been in a lot worse state now.
Yeah.
But there's guys who I know who've been through similar, and they've kept a bit of their eye, and now they can see light and dark.
Sure.
And with the technology that's going on now, you know, they're putting the chips, the optic nerves, and the chips in the back of the eye and the back of the retina and stuff like that. And I haven't got anything now. Like, I've gone back to the optic nerve, like right back. They've scooped this one out as well, so I'll take this one out quickly and I'll put them back in. So that's me.
Yeah.
No eyeballs, and I'll put them back in now. Just you'll never like.
They look incredible.
So I show people this all like and explain that I've got no eyeballs, and you'll never. How many times people have asked me, but how much can you see? Man, it's pitch.
You just can't tell.
Yeah,
you really, really can't tell.
Yeah, so they could track. They've even got the little veins in them and stuff like that.
Yeah, they look incredible.
So with the morphine, it was getting a massive irritation. So I'm never doing. I'm not having any.
Well, it's
more
basically
morphine.
heroin.
Yeah. I was like, I'm not having any more morphine. I'm not doing it. And they were like, okay. And so they scoop my right eye out
with no morphine.
They put me under, but I'm not going back to that world, man. I can't deal with the craziness of it.
Yeah.
I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what was up, what was down. I wasn't making right decisions. I was like, everything was horrible, man. And it was a nightmare world. Like, I told you some of the fun stuff, but like,
I can imagine that it can be equally as unpleasant.
When I thought I was being like kidnapped and about to be killed and stuff like that, you know, like when you feel so vulnerable, and someone's got an injection and they're gonna, like, a woman's now going to inject you with a lethal injection and you're going to die, and you think that, and like, you don't want to go through that anymore. So I'm like, no more morphine. And so they cut my right eye out, and man, the pain. So Jesus. It felt, the only way I can describe it is someone with a blunt, red hot, white hot poker slowly pushing it through your eye into your brain. That's what it felt like, man. That's what it felt like, and I did not want a morphine.
God damn.
Yeah, so I'm there, and I'm thinking, I confirm it. I confirm this, you know, I don't want to go back to that world. And it's ravenous pain. And I've got all the other pains anyway that were coming up.
So it felt like that after they did it?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, man. Like, your body's nervous system knows it's had an eye scooped out, and your body wants to protect itself and never have that happen again. So it's just like, pain, man. We're going to spread you. We're going to influx the pain, so like you don't have to go through this again, and you know not to do anything stupid like this. And so I'm firming it for probably an hour, and I'm screaming again. I'm like, rah, fuck.
Yeah.
Like, this is fucking painful, man. I'm like, I'm not taking morphine. And then the doctors come over and they're just like, you can't scream the hospital down.
Yeah.
You can't scream the hospital down. You can't do this. Just take the morphine. And I took the morphine. I'm back to fucking dreamland. Oh man. Yeah. I'm back to dreamland, and
that sounds better than white hot poker in the eye. Man.
Yeah, kind of, but mental torture
sure.
Mental torture can be just as bad as physical torture. And also I had other guys from Afghan in intensive care with me. So there was a guy opposite me who was a Gurkha who'd been severed in half by an IED, and he ended up dying a couple of days into being in intensive care. I've got another guy who I'll talk about in a minute who was in intensive care next to me, who never spoke or anything like that and didn't even know he was there. And so that was sort of my intensive care side of things. So I get out of and a couple of days after I started adjusting to the morphine and stuff like that, after I've had my eye scooped out, my brain and everything like that, I didn't realise, because my memories had gone, no one had told me or reminded me that Sam had been killed.
Yeah.
I didn't cry when I lost my left eye. I didn't cry when I had to remove my right eye and I was told I'd never see again. Once they told me Sam had been killed in the blast, that was worse than anything, man.
Yeah.
That was my heart got ripped out, and like, my stomach dropped, and like that really, really, really like fucked me up. And that was a mess. So,
well, you know, you spoke so much about how the bond was with everything.
Yeah.
Just like the whole army experience, you know, the whole military experience. So it was almost the main thing of that whole experience was the camaraderie and the bonds that you had with each other. So, you know, I think it's understandable that actually you care about each other more than you care about yourself.
Yeah.
So
and so that messed me up. But the thing was, like, it'd now been a week and a half since he'd been killed, so his body was being repatriated back to the UK, and I was just like, I'm not staying in this hospital. I'm going to Sam's funeral. Man. Like, there's not a chance I'm staying in this hospital.
Yeah.
And I hadn't walked by then. I hadn't got out of bed or anything like that, and I didn't even know if I could. And the charity Blind Veterans UK approached me in hospital and said, like, we've heard what happened to you. We're the military's. We're not attached to the military or anything like that, but we're the UK's best rehabilitation service for blinded and injured veterans.
Yeah.
And they gave me a white cane, and they said, look, when you're ready, come to us and we can rehabilitate you. And and so they taught me some basic cane skills and stuff like that, and so I was able to stand up and walk and stuff like that. And then I got myself to Wales, where Sam is from, and it was the first time I was back with my unit and stuff like that, and it was difficult to it was a difficult environment because a lot of the guys were still about to be deployed, because we deploy at different times and everything like that, so I'm almost like the ghost at the feast, reminding them of what they're going into, and I'm all fucked up, my face is all messed up, like I'm wearing these big massive glasses and like obviously cover up, like, because I didn't have prosthetic eyes at the time, and so just before I went out to Afghan, it was announced that I was going to be, like, a few of us were going to be promoted and stuff like that, and so I got a battlefield promotion to Lance Jack and Lance Bombardier, and I'd never worn the stripe because you don't wear any rank stripes out there or anything like that. Yeah. But obviously it's a military funeral, and it was kind of an odd moment because I put on my uniform, and it's the first time I've worn my stripe of rank, and it's supposed to be obviously like a massively proud moment and stuff like that. And I've come back. I've come back and essentially failed, and my mate's dead, and it's shit, man. It's proper shit.
Do you still look at that as a failure?
So I didn't want my career to end like that, obviously.
Nobody does.
No, and about BJJ and being associated so closely, what Seamus has done for me, being associated so closely with British Army Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, has given me that chance to still represent as part of like the British Army in a way, and still have that sort of responsibility of, I was trained by the British Army, I was made by the British Army. I'm not going to be broken by anyone in this world, and I won a gold medal at the World Championships, you know, a very proud moment of mine, and the British Army was behind that the whole time, Seamus and Andy. It wouldn't have happened without them. Obviously a lot of other people it went into it and stuff like that, but I wouldn't even be close or anything with any of that, and that sort of helped heal those wounds. So those sort of invisible wounds that I had coming away feeling a failure, feeling that I was a crap soldier, I was, you know, have been somewhat paved over and taken away and healed in a way. The healing process is still going on, but you know, I don't know how to describe it, but that's a work in progress.
It's interesting, and I guess kind of a little bit sad to hear you kind of describe what happened to you in Afghanistan as a failure, because of course, you know, like that's one of the ultimate sacrifices that you can make. So when people see that and they go, you know, this is a guy who obviously he wanted to serve his country, and he wanted to, you know, go and fight and bring peace and help people, and this has happened to him on the front lines. This terrible things happened. The last word that anyone would ever think to describe you as a failure. So it's kind of it's that thing where it's hard to listen to someone who's gone through what you have described themselves as that. So I don't think that's the case at all. But you know, to hear that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which we'll get onto next, has allowed you to kind of go back, and I don't think you don't have to prove anything to anyone else. But if you have to prove that to yourself, it kind of almost doesn't matter what anyone else says. You've got to kind of let's get into that. So after the injury,
I get you know, Sam's repatriation. I do that. I start my rehabilitation process with Blind Veterans UK. So I do. I go to Headley Court, which is the British Army's like where injured soldiers go to. That is the rehabilitation centre. They're great at dealing with limb loss. They're great at dealing with like mental health and arm loss and everything like that. But with blindness,
Really?
Nothing. There's nothing there for you. So I had to be ticked off there, like in terms of mental health and ability. But they put me in the neuro ward. So a lot of guys with head injuries. And so I walk in there with my dad, and this guy comes wheeling up to us, and he's like, Rob. And I was like, you all right? Who's this? I don't know you. Like, and then he recognises me and my dad and that, and I'm like, do I know you? He's just like, yeah, I was in intensive care with you. He was a former, he was an SAS guy who got shot just down the road from me, and he got shot in the head. And what happened was he was on his right foot, and the bullet hit him on his left side through the head. And because he was on his right foot, it just knocked him over. Yeah. But the bullet took out half his brain. But he's 2-2, mate. Freaking take a bullet to the head. Carry on working, man. But obviously neuromotor functions and everything like that completely diminished.
Yeah.
But proper legend. But yeah, he was next to me the whole time in a sort of locked-in syndrome thing in intensive care, like unable to move, but could see everything going on, see the family visiting me, hear my crazy rambling stories, everything like that, you know. So and Headley Court was awesome for morale and being with the soldiers still. So they did things like they'd have a swimming pool there, and they'd get us to stand on the back of these kayaks, these upturned kayaks, and have like slapping contests. Okay. And like I'm having a slapping contest. I'm blind. There's a guy with like one leg, and you've got to slap the other guy off the boat, man. And that's the army way, man. You're not these like disabled, feeble little things like that need stroking and care.
Well, that must be one of the hardest things, is to go from like, you know, you're a soldier, you're an elite soldier, you can do anything, you can handle anything, you can shit in a bit of cling film and take it with you and march for miles and all of that stuff, to go in. You don't want to be mollycoddled, you don't want to be treated as if you can't do stuff, so why not stand on a boat and slap each other? Yeah,
slap each other, and obviously the first person to fall in loses, and so your pride's on the line, man. And the good thing about it, obviously, is you're falling into water and stuff like that, so it's not going to hurt. You're just going to take a slap on the face, and it was awesome, man. Like things that rehabilitate. That's the best stuff about the rehabilitation process. But they didn't really have anything for me there. So after 3 weeks of going through like cognitive like tests and stuff like that to assess that I wasn't like, you know, lost or anything like that, they ticked me off, and that's essentially the end of my army career. I get handed over to Blind Veterans UK, who take me through independent living skills, how to like walk around independently, how to cook food and look after myself, because I was an independent. This has all happened to me. Like I was in the army by 20, and I see people on Facebook now, and they're posting up. I just made myself look at these chicken nuggets on Instagram. They've made themselves chicken nuggets and chips. Yeah. And you're just like, mate, you're 25 years old. What are you doing? Yeah. What are you doing with your life? But they taught me like how to have self-respect and, you know, be able to cook decent dishes for me and myself and my family and stuff like that. And then they take us out on adventure training, do a bit of rock climbing and stuff like that. And I've got this chip on my shoulder, man. Like I've been spat out of the career I loved, and I'm looking for something, and I'm fit and I'm healthy, and I've got the willpower to do anything that I want to do. And so the marathon in 2012, London Marathon, I signed myself up to that. I was just like, gonna do this, do this. And you get like a guide runner, and like you basically hold on to them, and then you run the marathon like that. But the training's hard, obviously, because I can't just run out and go for a jog anytime I want. And treadmill running, it just isn't the same. And it isn't the same as hill reps. So like 18 months after my injury, I ran the London Marathon.
Wow.
I could barely stand up for more than 5 minutes. And like literally, like it was fatigue because of the brain injury and stuff like that. You fatigue and your body's like doing it. So I ran it, and it's not the best time in the world. It's like 5 hours I done it in, but that qualifies you to get your marathon medal and everything like that. But that was hard, man. And I was of the mentality at the time. I was just like, I don't want any of those little caffeine like gel things. I don't want anything. I'll just do it on water. I just do it on pure water and grizz it out. And that was a mistake. But did
you reach for the caffeine tabs?
No, I didn't do it. I couldn't do it at the time. Like it would just, I don't know if it was just the state I was in and stuff like that, but running and having food inside me was just making me so nauseous, so sick. And I did that, and then I was looking for sports and stuff like that, and all the blind sports they're all adaptive and that, but I'm not trying to be derogatory about adaptive sports at all or anything like that. But I don't want to feel like people are making adaptions for me, like massive adaptions. So like with the blind cricket and the blind football, you get this like ball that you can't even miss that's massive with bells in it. And it's just like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And it's
you just wanted to play a normal sport.
Yeah, I just wanted to play a normal sport like a normal person and, you know, be independent and normal. So, and I was going through, I got myself back into college at the time. I signed myself back up for college. I started studying law and English literature.
Oh, wow.
And the English literature was great because you don't really need a memory in the tests, and so you could just be, as long as you're creative and you can and you understand the format, you could just write anything, man. And it's so I did great in English literature, but law is so
a lot of memorizing,
so memory focused and stuff like that. And that's where I met Jem, my partner. It's like I was going through a really rough patch at the time, really low self-esteem, low everything. I used to wear, you've been able to see my eyes the whole time, but I used to wear like glasses all the time, shades wherever I went. And so in law class, I'd be the first one in there, and I'd sit down. My cane would be under the table. And you were
gonna be a blind lawyer who does martial arts. You were gonna be Daredevil,
mate. I didn't know. I hadn't seen
you didn't
Daredevil.
know at the time.
I didn't know, but I was moulding myself into being Daredevil, man. And I would turn up. I'd turn up to law class early, just 'cause it's the military way. If you're if you're on time, you're late.
Yeah.
If you're 5 minutes early, you're on time.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. And so I'd turn up early, and no one would really know I was blind or anything like that. I'd sit there, and I'd be the most talkative in class and responsive with the teacher and stuff like that, and the most confident. And I was determined to be the person who learnt the most and done everything. And I didn't really chat to anyone in the class or anything like that, but there was this girl there at the time, and like Jem, and she didn't know I was blind or anything like that. And what would happen was like I had to have a special needs teacher, like assistant. I can't remember what the official name was for them, but obviously to write down all the notes and stuff like that, because I couldn't write them down, and I needed talking computers to do it, and I can't really affect the class like that with my talking computer. And so independently, that special needs teacher, like, she would at lunchtime, she would just sit me down with the people she knew, which were all people who basically had special needs. And I've gone from, and I'm not saying this in a derogatory way or anything like that, but that was like my social circle at lunchtime, because that's the only people she could leave me with and be safe. And she couldn't just leave me with a random stranger or leave me on my own. So I'm sitting there at this table, and I've gone from being a frontline elite soldier to having conversations that really aren't very stimulating, if I can say that. And one of them knew Gemma, and she's like, "Oh, Jem, come over here, meet my friend." And she's like being polite, and she's like, "Oh, okay." And then I stand up, and I'm like talking to her and that, and I'm like trying to be my best to be charming and everything like that. And she's quite surprised and everything like that. So we go off and we have a chat, and she gets me a coffee and stuff like that. And obviously she was quite surprised of me coming out of that circle. Now I have like a friend, like now I have a sort of friend who we can have like stimulating conversations. We can go to like cafes together and everything like that. And I'll tell you, man, you think dating's hard, you try dating when you're blind, man. No car, no nothing. And like I can't
imagine.
You've got to pull out all the stops, man. You've got to be the most charming guy in the world. And
it sounds like you managed to pull it off.
Well, yeah, she's a really cool girl. Like, we were into the same thing. So she was into kickboxing. Yeah. And as an anniversary present, like, I was going to go down. She's a girl, man. She wanted pink gloves. And a pink helmet and stuff like that. So I was just like, go and get there. I went down to her local martial arts academy where she was training. I explained I explained to them, like, I'm blind, I used to do this, and I wanted to like get into boxing and stuff like that. And we'll train you and stuff like that. So I started out getting into kickboxing, and sorry, I'm just trying to.
That's all right.
And so we're doing the kickboxing. It's great. I can do everything anyone else can do on the pads and stuff like that. But obviously, I'm never gonna be in a proper kickboxing match, like, because even if you blindfold someone, if you're in a proper kickboxing match, like, whoever gets the first head hit is just going to win, and you can't really defend it, so you're never going to get that high level of competition. So what I did do is I went in for like points-based karate. And I was able to blindfold the people then, and you know, we find each other. It's very slow. It's not like running in there or anything like that. But then you score the point, you get a nice kick. And also I really worked on my angle kick, because I knew, like, if I did ever, in self-defense terms and everything like that, if I'm ever going to get into a confrontation, and didn't know much about grappling at the time, I'm going to get 1-2 strikes on the person if I'm lucky. So I was like, an angle kick's nice. It's got a nice arc on it. I'm going to hit something. And if I can just get it to be like a sharp angle kick, that's going to be awesome. So that was really powerful. And then on the other hand, I worked on like my range finding. So I could jab. So I'd jab, that'd be my range, and then I'd have the hand cannon, bang, and like that would be the one that needed to be at those fast twitch muscle fibers. As soon as I've found my target, bang, it's going to come in and take their head off. But I was never able to compete like that. I came up with all these crazy ideas. Like one of my ideas was, right, so you know the Mexican wrestlers, you know, they wear the masks and that. I was just like, so the blindfold doesn't come off, I'm going to create one of those Mexican wrestling masks, right? But the eyes are going to be covered. So when you kick them, it's not going to come off, right? And they're going to have a little thing that comes above their head with a bell, so I can hear where they are. And we'll both be wearing them, right? And we'll go in, and I explained it to the martial arts instructor. He's just like, mate, what
you're out of your mind.
If you think I'm gonna let you kick the hell out of me while I'm wearing a Mexican wrestling mask, man,
with a bell on the top.
With a bell on the top, it's just not gonna happen. And so we went there, and it never quite felt right. It was great for my fitness, it was great for my flexibility, but it never quite felt right. And I was getting some attention on Twitter and stuff like that, and then I looked at the British Army BJJ thing, and I saw that they were working with veterans, and I messaged them, and then Seamus got in contact with me. He's like, yeah, come down and roll, man. Like, we'll teach you. And, mate, I got in there, and it was just perfect for... obviously, I've talked about it a lot before and everything like that, and you've read stuff, but how perfect it is for blind people. And so... they're showing me the grappling, and they're explaining about closing the distance and stuff like that. And like, as soon as I've closed the distance and I've got someone, especially with gis and stuff like that, if someone's wearing a gi, I've got all those handles on them. I've got a million handles I can grab onto and not let go. And it all really started from there. It was perfect. I took to it like, you know, like a fish in water. It's perfect.
So you started with Andy Roberts?
Yeah, Andy Roberts, the first class.
I think I remember your first class.
Yeah?
Which is kind of weird.
I think
I remember seeing a post from Andy that he's just done his first session with a blind veteran, Rob Long. So I think that was the first time I
think we were doing like hip throws or something
like that. I just remember seeing it. I thought that's really cool. And then followed your progress since then.
So with Seamus at the time, he was working with veterans, and he had this idea of the support group through BJJ. And so he would come down to the initial lesson and stuff like that, make sure everything's okay. Obviously, like, Andy couldn't handle it and stuff like that, but like Seamus was involved as well, because he was a point of contact. So he got us involved with that. And I think that must have been, was that about March last year maybe, or something like that? No, it would have been further back than that. It's about 18 months ago from now. And so we started there, and training was great. Training was going really, really well. And then the inter-services came up. The inter-services came up, and it was about a week to go. And I was talking to Andy about it. And I was like, is that open to veterans as well? And he's like, mate, if you want to do it, you get on it and do it. He was like, there's no reason that you can't do it. I've seen you in training. I've seen you sparring people. Like, there's no reason that you can't do that and do quite well. And so with a week to go, I was just like, yeah, I'll do it.
How long have you been training for at the time?
6 months maybe.
Wow.
About 6 to 8 months. No, about 6 months, I'd say.
Was that scary, thinking about going in the competition for the first time?
Yeah. Well, in my head, this was it. This is the shining moment of like, wow, this is my Rocky montage moment that I've been building up to. Because it was my first competition and everything. It meant, and it still does mean a lot to me, but it meant everything. That was like, after that week. It was kind of always in the back of my head that I was going to do a competition and stuff like that.
In jiu-jitsu, like from when you first started jiu-jitsu, you just took to it immediately. You knew that you wanted to compete.
Yeah, I knew one day I'm going to be on a world stage.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to be doing. This is what I'm going to dedicate my time to, and I'm going to become an elite at this. It's got elite people in it.
Yeah.
I've got the right circles going on now, and I've got the right guys around me supporting me, and I can do this. And I think I just started at RGA as well, roughly around that time. I think because obviously Andy's in Aldershot, and so it's just a mission to get there and like do once a week there. So I needed another place to train. So I started training at RGA, and just to go back to my first experience with RGA, that place, man, is amazing. Not just for the jiu-jitsu and everything like that, but for a blind person, when you walk in there and you've got Mauricio and you've got Roger and you've got all the Brazilian guys, and they're all laughing and they're welcoming, they all know you by name and they all welcome you in, man. The place is vibrant. It feels like you can see the place, like that laid back culture of like everything's like, you walk in those doors and it's like you can feel you can see the sort of emotion that's going on in that place. And obviously when you get on the mat, it's serious. There's serious work to be done, but there's a very welcoming, great atmosphere to be surrounded by.
Yeah.
And so I started training with Mauricio and stuff like that, and I hadn't even done any takedowns by this point. Like I hadn't really done anything from the feet or anything like that. So Andy started, like, I'd done a few of those hip throws, like you say, but Andy was showing me like dropsy and argies, and like he's just like, this would be quite good and stuff like that. Like, and we'd literally just trained it the week before, drilled it a few times. So that's the thing that's fresh in my head. And I go there and it's the military atmosphere. Everyone's having the banter and everyone's like, it's very serious. And my heart's like racing, and I know how important this is. And it's not like the most massivest competition in the world in my heavyweight category. I think there was like 3 or 4 people.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be a big thing relative to the world if it's a big thing relative to you.
Yeah, exactly. And I was thinking, if I go in here and hold my own and do jiu-jitsu, and it's kind of what I think with every competition, for me, the battle is to do the best jiu-jitsu in the world. Of course I want to win, but for me personally, I want to go out onto that mat and I want to do the best jiu-jitsu regardless of being blind. I want to look like a professional jiu-jitsu competitor. I don't want people to think this guy is blind, he's good for a blind guy.
Yeah.
And if
you
I
just
can
want to be good.
I can do that and have people not even know that I'm blind or know that there's any difference and be impressed, that's the goal for me. And obviously having that background and having that sort of fire has really helped me to do the best jiu-jitsu. And when I'm doing my best jiu-jitsu, at some point it's going to be better than someone else's jiu-jitsu that they're bringing against me. So, and that's all I can expect of myself. And like I say, I ended up winning gold. I got a beautiful dropsy and argi. It wasn't the most beautiful dropsy enough to me. It was fantastic, man. Yeah. But it was. I managed to get a dropsy and argi on a guy in the final, and then from there it was just all over. And I got the submission in the final, and I was really, really, really happy and proud of that.
So, just to reiterate this is a competition where were you the only injured veteran there?
Yeah.
So this was a competition against fully able-bodied, fully sighted
professional soldiers
in a normal division, which is exactly what you wanted to do. Perfect. And you managed to take the gold.
Yeah, absolutely perfect for me. Professional soldiers.
It kind of proves everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was a massive moment for me. Really, really massive moment for me. And everyone was proud. Like Seamus was really proud, Andy was really proud, like, Mauricio and everyone like that heard about it, and it's great. And I managed to get some footage of it as well, so just put that up on my social media, and people are really impressed. And I guess that's how like a lot of people heard
absolutely
about it, because it was quite a surprising, big deal. And I got out on the mat and I did what I needed to do.
Yeah.
And then obviously,
well, you continued going on from there, right?
Yeah, so after that was the inter-services shortly after that, and now I've got the gold. I can't come in there like basically everyone knows I'm coming. I've blown my surprise. I've blown the act of sneaking in under the radar.
You've already gone viral.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You're not an underdog anymore.
No underdog. And
So the first one was just the army, right?
The army, yeah.
So now you're representing the army in the inter-services.
In the inter-services. So now I'm part of the veterans team. So there was a few veterans there, and it was open to emergency responders, police, army, navy, RAF.
Okay. Wow.
It was huge, man.
Wow.
It was well over 100 compares there.
Awesome.
And I think I got about four matches just in my category, and then in the absolutes I think I got another 3 or 4.
Wow.
That was a big day.
That's a long day.
Yeah, really long day. But first match, boom. I'll tell you what happened. I don't know, it's not making excuses or anything like that, but I was a bit tired last time because it's a long journey, and the army likes to start their competitions bang on at 9 in the morning and stuff like that. Weigh-ins at 8, and I've got to get all the way to Aldershot, so I don't want to be waking up at like 5 in the morning and be knackered and do it. So I decided I want to get a hotel this time.
Sure.
And comedy of errors happen, and we ended up getting to the hotel about 10 o'clock in Aldershot, and it's just completely closed up.
No.
Oh yeah, it wasn't even. Yeah, it wasn't even like it's a hotel. It was a normal hotel, and we phoned them up earlier and we were like, can we check in late? It was about 12 o'clock at this point, and then by the time we'd found another hotel, it was like 2 in the morning. By the time I'd got settled, it was 3, and I've got 24-hour sleep wake disorder, so because I've pitch black all my life.
Yeah.
As soon as I close my eyes and put my head on the pillow, it's still pitch black.
Sure.
And so
does that mean it's hard for you to sleep?
Impossible, man. I
really
your melatonin level. So when
do they mess with your like circadian rhythm?
Massively. That's what it is. 24-hour sleep wake, like circadian rhythm disorder. So
sure.
Because obviously you process blue light, and that helps your melatonin levels go up and down and fluctuate, and that's what makes you feel awake, and that's what makes you feel alert, and that's also what makes you feel sleepy.
Sure.
And so I don't mean to be making excuses.
It's interesting to hear it though, because one of the things I want to talk about after jiu-jitsu stuff is the stuff that you don't think about.
Yeah. So I was absolutely knackered, and had to take some sleeping tablets to sort of get myself to sleep, just so I got a couple of hours. So I wasn't and this is about 3 in the morning now. And so I wake up and the sleeping tablets are still kicking in, and I'm like drunk as hey, I feel drunk, man. And do the weigh-in, go to the weigh-in, and I think I was like drinking Red Bull and loads of coffees and stuff like that. But that, and with the combination of the nerves and the adrenaline and everything like that, my stomach was going like crazy. And so I get to my first match, and I'm like freaking drunken master, you know what I mean? Like I feel like I'm swaying almost, and I go for a single leg takedown, and the guy just knees me straight over, lands on top, knee on belly, and it's kind of straight away over from there. And like Mauricio was there, and it's the first time I've been competing and in front of Mauricio, and I was really eager to show him like I was, I'm good at jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. And it was just like, oh man, what am I doing? And anyway, there's nothing like someone sticking a knee on belly to wake you up. And by the time the first match was over, I'd felt like awake and alert and up for it, and crazy, but I'd lost that one, so now I was only going to get bronze, I think. And I had a couple more matches, managed to win them, managed to scrape my way through to a bronze, and then Andy and Seamus squared me away to get into the absolutes.
Okay.
And then it was going a bit better from then. I won because of my size. I compete at heavyweight.
Sure.
I got silver. I got silver in the absolutes, and that was amazing. I mean, the final, I didn't do the best jiu-jitsu I could have done, but everyone feels like that. I think when they lose, they just I didn't do the best jiu-jitsu that I possibly could have done, and I can blame it on the tiredness or whatever, or just that the guy was better than me. He was a really strong guy, and in the heavyweight category, a lot of times the guys, because I'm 95 kilos, I'm short and squat, and a lot of the guys are like tall and thin. But in this one, it was the first time I'd faced a guy who was pretty much identical. Like,
really?
Body weight, body size, muscle strength, and everything like that. And so it was a really good match, and he ended up beating me and taking the gold. But that silver meant so much more to me.
Well, we were saying this in the car, that sort of that silver represented the fact that you were having to earn it. Nobody was giving
Yeah.
you anything because you were blind.
Yeah.
Nobody was giving anything for any other reason. That everything you did, you actually earned.
It's not taken away from any of my wins or any of my golds or anything like that. But the fact that no one's going to let me win is such an important thing. Like the fact that he's gonna make sure that he submits me, won by submission as well. He's not gonna.
He wasn't even gonna just ride out.
He wasn't going to be like,
yeah.
oh, he's blind, I can just like mess about with him and throw him around like a cat or like do anything silly. He was just like, I'm going for this, man. I'm getting the gold. I'm doing the best jiu-jitsu, and I'm gonna give this guy the respect on the mat that if he doesn't come with his best game, I'm gonna submit him.
Yeah,
I'm gonna submit him, and I'm gonna do better jiu-jitsu than him, and I'm gonna win, and I'm gonna take the gold. And that's what it's all about. That's what every jiu-jitsu competition should be about.
Yes.
And I got to test that theory, and it was about that. No one's given me no one's given me a token gold for turning up and being blind, and that's not what I want. And so that silver medal has a real special place for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
because then of course, you know, the more recent stuff has been the UAE Jiu-Jitsu Federation has sort of set up they're putting a lot of money behind the para jiu-jitsu tournaments and the para jiu-jitsu scene in general.
Yeah, so coming off the back of that, I went in and represented and won gold again in the army championship earlier this year in January. And then I think it was Junior from RGA who came up to me. It was either Junior or Charles, and they came up to me and they were telling me how there's para jiu-jitsu going on, and it's going to be like a massive competition, and the British Grand Slam is happening and everything like that. And they put me in contact with the guys. I signed myself up, and that brings us on to the Grand Slam. And yeah, kind of, what do you want to know about the Grand Slam?
I want to know everything. It just looked like such a cool tournament.
It is amazing. So they were like, from the beginning, they were like, in Abu Dhabi, there's no money for the para guys or anything like that. There's nothing. You're not going to win like money. There's not going to be any like massive fortune or anything like that. But you're going to go, and we've got to build this. We've got to build and represent and bring para jiu-jitsu to the world.
Yeah.
And I know from personal experience how important Brazilian jiu-jitsu is to someone who's disabled.
Especially someone who's lost their sight.
Yeah, and for me, well, I'll get to that, but like a lot of disabilities, it can bring so much to so many disabilities. The whole thing about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is working with what you've got. You know, the essence of it is the smaller guy beating the bigger guy. We've always gone about. And to be honest with you, if you're facing a 6'5" guy and you're 5'2", not that it happens really and stuff like that, but like that's kind of like a disability in a way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're supposed to be able to work with what you've got with leverage and use your best jiu-jitsu to adapt and overcome.
Yeah.
And with a lot of disabilities, it works really well. And how flexible, it's not entrenched like the taekwondo and everything like that. It's not entrenched in all these silly rules and silly like it's not as rigid, you know what I mean? There's a lot more. There's a lot more
free.
It's quite free. It's quite flexible, and the rules can be sort of adapted. So for me, obviously, to make the jiu-jitsu happen properly, I have to start out touching the person, because otherwise they'll just walk around my back and just you know, and just rear naked choke me, and that's it.
Yeah,
no one wants to see that. So, the para jiu-jitsu happens, but they haven't got any other blind guys, and the only guy who's close enough to me is a guy who's missing his hand. But that is such a massive disadvantage in jiu-jitsu compared to not having your sight. So at the moment, it's a little bit, and we need more people. We need to be able to match people up very even. I'm very proud of the win, and he was really good. So we start out, and I'm not allowed to touch him with two hands for the start. You know, when he says, because sometimes we'll do a 50-50, like me and the other person will start out in 50-50 grips. But for this, obviously, he's got one hand, so, and it's everything happens. All the rules get explained to you on the mat as you're about to fight, man. So you've got to get all this stuff in process. And he's like, I didn't even know, like Seamus was there, and he was just like, I think the guy's got a dodgy hand. And I'm like, okay. And then so we go out onto the mats, and then the ref's like, you can hold him. So I go to do the 50-50 grips like normal. He's like, no, you can't touch him with like that hand. And I was like, what, for the whole match? He's like, no, go for it, like in the match, but you just can't hold him like that at the start. And so what I find with the limb loss guys is they are amazing at adapting to use that limb in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So obviously when they're underneath and he hasn't got a hand restricting him, so he can superly get into that underhook. He can get that really nice, and obviously you don't really need to grip around the back or the belt necessarily. You can slide out if you've got that underhook from side control. You can essentially slide out. But I managed to get him into side control, and I was thinking about this, and he was sticking his like nub, as it was, right into my ribs, man, and he was like proper going for it, like trying
just
to
jabbing you with it.
Yeah, just really jabbing me with it, and it was like really uncomfortable. But I ended up getting round to north south, and then once I was on the back, obviously it's all over. Like the strength in my arms. Once I've got that grip on the lapel. Like a lot of times, unless you're doing everything right, you're not going to get me off with just two hand. Like you're not going to get my arm off your neck without, getting to you, pushing me down, pushing your head through my face, and then working it out that way. And I was in quite good control of his body, because obviously the weight categories don't count in the para thing, because they just match us on whoever they can match us with, because there's not enough to do it on. So I ended up getting a lapel choke on him, and then got the gold for that. Massively over the moon. I'm very proud of the way like I conducted myself and he conducted ourselves. I just feel like possibly it's the jiu-jitsu, the para jiu-jitsu side of things is only going to get better the more people who know about it, and the more we can evenly have like matches with people. And so that got me my invite to the Worlds. And
so that was the trials in the UK, right?
Yeah, that was the British Grand Slam, and that was great. We had some real good people. Max was there, and Nigel Davidson. Yes, he was there, and obviously he works with Reorg, the I think they're the Marines.
Yes,
and he works closely with the Army team as well, and very closely with Mauricio. So he's really good. I should get some more training in with him, really, just to feel like what the limb loss people have got going for them. So I can, because a lot of my stuff has been so ad hoc. Like when I got to the Worlds. I'll explain that a bit more. Is there anything else you need to know about the Grand Slam?
No.
So, Abu Dhabi, back to the Middle East. After,
under very different circumstances.
Well,
still getting the fight, right?
Fighting for my country.
Got
that GB
there you go.
Stamp, and you stick that GB next and that flag next to my name, and I'm fighting to the death. I'm gonna go out on my shield.
Awesome, yes.
So, one of the problems I'd had in the inter-services and throughout my jiu-jitsu was at white belt I could almost sort of muscle my way through, especially at the absolutes. Like when the guys are smaller, like I'm not really getting the subs on them, and I'm not doing the beautiful jiu-jitsu, but I'm getting them down, I'm getting the advantages, I'm getting the takedowns, and so I'm winning like that. But once it came to the sort of ultra heavyweights and stuff like that, I was like a fish out of water.
Sure.
I was really struggling with that. And Andy and Seamus knew that. I was increasing my time at RGA, so I was getting a lot more technique and stuff like that. But it's the bodies you need. You need to fight people of different levels, different weights, and everything like that to be really well rounded. And it just so happened at the time, just leading up to the Worlds, there was a military police guy called James who'd started training there, and he was, I think he was about 107, 110 kilos.
Big boy.
Yeah, and the classes, the army classes are quite small, but the level is really, really good. So we got another guy there, Chris, who's like Scots Guards, and he's amazing. He's lighter than me, but as soon as my arm, I think he's like 65 kilos, possibly 69 kilos, but like he's so technically good, and with the armbar, with guys like me, that he proves the essence of like
that little man jiu-jitsu,
that he can just wrap you up. He can wrap you up, and like, because he's not. I know there's a level of fitness outside the army and stuff like that. It's not the be all and end all, but because he's very, very, athletic and stuff like that, it's very hard to move him anyway. Getting into this super heavyweight stuff. James had come down, and it was just like it's an hour and a half of sparring down at Andy's, like sometimes, and it's once you're all sweaty and you've got a super heavyweight on you, it feels like you're being waterboarded by a shed. It's basically it without even the subs, man. You got that gi, that wet gi over your face, and you can't breathe and stuff like that. And it was about getting used to them situations and being relaxed under knowing that he's on top. I've got to fight off my back now. I've got to get away. This is not a guy I can just bench press off me. Like it's not going to work. As soon as he grips down on me or does anything, like I'm not just going to be able to bench him off. So I have to get really good at escaping from underneath like big guys. And we beasted that for about 3 weeks, like getting really comfortable with the larger guys. And at the same time, Ezekiel from RGA, he pulled me aside. I didn't really know him and stuff like that. I'd just done a little sparring session with him, but every now and again, I don't know if you get this, but obviously at my stage where I don't know loads and loads of techniques, every now and again a technique you'll come across a technique and you're just like, that's mine, that's perfect, that's where I'm happy. And
it finds you.
Yeah, and it was just really nice escape if someone's like mounting you, and so I had that in my back pocket. And so I was quite comfortable and relaxed, and I get out to the worlds, and everyone kind of, it's good in that, but there's another side to para jiu-jitsu, which is the support side, where not necessarily some of them are going to be top athletes. They're and able to compete in able-bodied competitions and stuff like that. The range of disabilities, like really severe learning difficulties, and people with very severe like cerebral palsy and stuff like that, and it's good to give them an opportunity in an environment where they can compete fairly against other people. And it's really important for them to have that support group and have that family that BJJ gives you, and also to be able to compete in arenas and stuff like that. They deserve it too, you know. If they're putting in the work, no matter like what they're able to do, if they're putting in the work, they deserve to be able to go to that and be the best person that, like, in the cerebral palsy world or the other, like, you know, worlds, there's that side of things as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
And what I'd say is they all stayed in the same hotel. Me and Nigel, like the British guys, we were just antisocial. We're both like of the mentality. We're like, we don't want to be friends with them. We're going to be fighting them. We're like, you know, we want this to be like serious. So we're both in there to kind of be elite athletes, as it were, and do and represent. And there are some great guys who are there doing that as well. So Ronald Mann, you know about Ronald? He lost a leg. He was American.
I recognise the name.
Yeah, so he was one of the first amputees to compete in MMA, and he got some MMA titles. He's missing the bottom of his right leg, I believe it is, and he competed in the cage and stuff like that. Done some decent MMA fights.
Nice.
And like Rustin Hughes and stuff like that. They're again veterans, and they're representing that side of things. And a lot of the Brazilians are like former police, so like they're either former police or like sort of specialist branch, like military. You know, Brazil's a different kettle of fish. They've got their own wars and, like, you know, internal struggles with the drugs and stuff like that. And they're really supportive of the British forces. Like, they're really happy to have like British veterans there and stuff like that. But going back to it, I'm there to compete. And I want to be treated like a professional athlete. Yeah. And the support side of things is great, but I'm not getting involved with going out and drinking and eating with them necessarily at this competition. I will. Sure. There's a future for that, and I'm friends with them after it's all finished, and we can do all that sort of stuff.
You're taking it seriously.
Yeah, and not that they're not taking it seriously, but there's just a different aspect that they've got to deal with. And so me and Nigel are just cutting our own detail, doing our own thing. And the other thing I liked about it was it all started in the afternoon, and so I could relax in the morning, you know, not worry about too much, have a nice lunch and everything like that. And my missus, on the day of the event, my missus came down really ill, and she couldn't go with me. And so I go downstairs and I'm like looking for Nigel, and I end up finding Nigel, and then we go there on our own, and we turn up, and it's before that, sorry, I will get to the
go for it,
fight and stuff like that. But so I'm back in the Middle East, and there is certain aspects that, I'm not saying it's like Afghanistan or anything like that, but there's a certain environment in a strict religious country that you can feel, that's in the air, that's a sort of unwelcoming to. There are certain aspects that are quite unwelcoming to me, and when you can't see and stuff like that, it was a bit of a worrying environment. So El Surly, who's the head of organising all this para-jiu-jitsu stuff, he has the idea of taking us all to the Grand Mosque. And I don't particularly want to go to the Grand Mosque, but we're all getting our gis and that, and we're going to the Grand Mosque.
They love to take photos there, don't they?
Yeah. So it's a serious place, man. It's the Grand Mosque. There's no messing about. And if anyone knows anything about that area of the world, they don't really like it if you're taking the mick out of their religion. To be honest. And
I've heard.
Yeah. So we get there, we're all taking our photos, and Nigel's like, mate, there's guys doing like Christ the Redeemer in front of the mosque, and I'm like, you can't take Brazilians anywhere, man. They don't care. I'm like, mate, they're like former police like officers, and they're like obviously heavy Catholic guys, and I'm like, it's gonna start kicking off around here. So I'm like, I'm gonna have to get my contact drills back on, and anyway, that all settles down. I think someone comes over and just like, no,
chill it out.
Yeah, you can't be doing that. And then all of a sudden, the call to prayer comes out. And it was the first time I'd heard that since the incident.
Wow.
And there was I don't know much about post-traumatic stress disorder or anything like that, or flashbacks. I don't know. I don't really want to say that I've got anything like that. I don't think I have. I've got serious stresses that go along with being injured and stuff like that, but I don't really think I can call it post-traumatic stress disorder. And the call to prayer went out, and something happened internally to me, subconsciously, that I wasn't expecting. My body got massively hot. Like, my body just went fire. My heart started beating, like, and then I knew I couldn't do anything, but I wanted to fight. I was angry. I was really, really furious.
Man, that must be a crazy feeling.
I was furious, and I had no one to take it out on, and I was furious, man. And so Nigel saw me, and he was just like, he took me over to like a tree underneath some shade, and he's just like, "You all right, man?" I was like, yeah, like hiding it all, like as you do. You grin and bear it, you know what I mean? I'm putting on a brave face. And then we all went back to the coach, and I was like welling up, like the adrenaline surge went down, and I had all these feelings about, obviously.
So how long had that been?
8 years, 7.5 years. 8 years, the first time I heard the call to prayer. And then it was just, and I thought to myself, I'm going to use that emotion. I'm going to go out there, and whatever I've got, I'm going to go and I'm going to do it. And the other thing about the military training and stuff like that was Seamus and Andy don't take it easy on me or anything like that. When I was like the last training session, Andy was just like, don't come back without the gold, mate. You know what I mean? You ain't coming back without the gold. You're going to beat these guys. He said like a few things like that, and I was just like, I'm going to do it. A bit of banter, but a bit of like, you're going out there. I know you can do this. You do it. And then Seamus was like, you go out there and you die on your shield. You die on your shield. This is your opportunity. And
they weren't taking it seriously or anything. But
No. He's always just like, relax, man. This is for you. But go out there and die on your shield. You go out there and you die on your shield, mate, because like you don't want to have any regrets. And they gave me that inspirational speech, and then I with the call to prayer, when the call to prayer happened and everything and the dust had settled, I said, I'm going to use that. I'm going to remember this. I'm going to remember this emotion.
And was it the next day that you were competing?
Yeah. And I'm going to take it. And so we get there, and it's mayhem at the Mobadala Arena, I think.
I've been. If it's the same place, is it the same place at the normal Abu Dhabi Pros? I've been there. I went there a few years ago. Yeah,
and it's just mayhem. Like everyone's speaking Arabic and Brazilian, and I don't know what's going on. I'm being passed to and from, and then we go to the warm up area. And they're like, "Oh, Rob, do you want to go and do an interview?" And so there's me, Ronald Mann, and Stacey Dusherer from from Canada, and we're doing this interview, and they're like, it'll only be 5 minutes. 25 minutes later, we're still in the interview, and it's a good interview, and it was a great opportunity to talk about para jiu-jitsu and like everything like that. And I'm just there, and I'm like, I want to be the best. I'm like, I want to win. I want to compete, and I'm like, I've got all that energy because I know it's just before. I know it's just before, and I want to bring that to sort of the para jiu-jitsu world of that. You know, we're there to compete each other, and I want to compete with each other, and we're there to be a family, like a Brazilian jiu-jitsu family, and be there to support each other. But when it gets on that mat, it's so serious. It's so serious what we're doing, and as disabled athletes, it's on us to show how adaptive Brazilian jiu-jitsu is, and how you can be top level even though you're disabled, and overcoming. You've got to be top level. You can do fluent, beautiful jiu-jitsu, and you can do. For me, that's some of the pressure, and that's some of the things that I want to bring to the jiu-jitsu world. Anyway, we get out of the interview, and I need the toilet, and like there's someone takes me down, and I'm like, toilet, and they're like, radio, toilet. Oh, okay. And then they're taking me out to the mat area, and I'm like, what?
That's not a toilet.
That's not the toilet. All of a sudden, everyone's cheering.
No.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, I haven't warmed up. So I'm like bouncing on my toes. Like, I feel like I'm coming out like Mike Tyson now. You know, when he comes down and he's bouncing in his hoodie and like his what is it? His sort of kimono, like dressing gown thing. So I've got to warm up now on the way to the mat. I know the mat's probably like 20 paces away. Yeah. So I'm jumping up and down.
You got 20 good paces.
Yeah, I'm shaking my arms. I'm like that. I must have looked like an absolute nutcase. But one thing I will say is going from 8 years ago when I was lying in that hospital bed, not knowing what was up and what was down, not knowing where I was, what was reality, what was in my head, the scared feelings, the vulnerable feelings, and not even knowing if I could see my hand in front of my face or like anything like that. And now all of a sudden, I'm in a world, title event, a prestigious event. I'm coming out to a crowd. I'm a sponsored athlete. I've got a gi on that someone's had, like Dean Thompson of Storm Kimonos, sponsored my kit and equipment, and where I've been and where I've come from is just worlds apart. And now I've come out, and I'm in this gi that someone sponsored me to wear, and it's got all the Storm like logos on it, and I feel like a professional athlete, and the crowd's cheering, and mate,
that's crazy.
It's nothing like it. I was on top of the world, and I stepped on that mat, and I'm I'm competing against another blind guy. Yeah. And he's a former Brazilian police officer, as far as I'm aware. I'm a former British veteran. Wow. Head to head. Yeah. Let's see who's the best of the blindies, right? I was joking with Andy. I was just like, I can't wait to compete against another blind guy. Yeah. It's like that Highlander moment. There can be only one. As I'm like, submitting him and that. And but so I don't know what happened, but I did the best jiu-jitsu I believe I've ever done. Awesome. It was nothing crazy, nothing special, nothing like no secret moves or anything like that. It was, so the day before, like everyone was like talking to each other and matching each other up, and I felt the guy. I'd done my research as well, so I knew in my category there was like 3 people, and my missus Gemma was looking them up, and she's like, oh man, like this guy's massive. He's hench. I was like, don't tell me that. That was one of the reasons I started training so heavy with the ultra heavyweights. Yeah. And he's like, he's massive, and he's got all these medals around him on his social media. He's got all these. He's competed in like cited competitions, and like we're translating it, and he's like competing. I was like, oh, this is going to be a good match, man. Yeah. And he's a purple belt. And
you're a white belt.
I'm a white belt. And I was just like, man, all I've got to do is go in there and do the best jiu-jitsu I can. And I felt him the day before. And he was like, this is the guy you're going to be competing against. And he was sitting down, and he didn't feel that big or anything like that. So I was like really confident. The day before, it relaxed my nerves and everything like that. But once I got 50-50 grips of him, I realised he's taller than me, and he's quite stocky. And But I'd been doing all that nut stuff as I was coming out, man. And he had a bit of vision, so I think he could see me. And I'm like geared up and I'm ready to go. I'm like, rah! Right. And then we get on the mat and he's like, fight. And I'm on it. Like I'm taking this moment. This is the world championship. Like, you know,
this is the final
fight. Yeah, because the other guy pulled out.
Sure. Okay.
Wasn't able. So this was the final of my category. This is for the gold. He's definitely a worthy opponent. And, you know, a lot of the pressure is on him because I'm coming out as a 4-stripe white belt with no eyes. He had to lead me to the mats at one point, and then lead me off. And I can show you the video and stuff like that at the end, but I managed to just do decent jiu-jitsu, keep him at a disadvantage the whole time, keep him on his toes, control the fight, get it down to the ground. Once it was down on the ground, he was on his back. I was comfortable, break his guard, get through, get to side control, and do what I needed to do. I ended up getting to his back and submitting him. And I think it was one of the only submissions of the para jiu-jitsu. I think there wasn't many submissions and stuff like that. And it was just one of those matches where everything went right for me. He was good.
Just the flow.
He was good, but sometimes you just train right. And Andy and Seamus and Mauricio and Hodger had put a lot of effort into me and a lot of time and dedication, and it paid off. It paid off in that match. It all came together. Everything went right, and
man, that's awesome.
And then the crowd cheered, and man, it was I can't describe it. And like I was saying, just before I came out, I was happy to know how far I'd come. But you know, to win the gold,
huge,
man, huge moment. I knew how proud everyone in the British Army Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu team was going to be of me.
Yeah.
I knew that like I'd had the RGA, I'd had that patch on my back as well. I was representing, and mate, it's life affirming, life changing. I'd done it independently, and in terms of like going out there, I'd pushed myself. Like obviously, I had that team behind me who'd put everything into me.
Yeah, but you know, step out on the mats on your own.
Yeah, there was
it's a beauty in jiu-jitsu. It's like you can't do Brazilian jiu-jitsu alone. It's not like running. It's not like weightlifting. It's not like any of those sports where you can practice alone. You cannot do Brazilian jiu-jitsu alone. In order to practice, you need to be with someone. And a team is such a massive part of Brazilian jiu-jitsu. It's such an important part, but at the same time, there's only one of you on the mat. Yeah,
there was kind of only one of me sort of out in Abu Dhabi because the coaches weren't with me and everything like that. And there were people like coaching me from the sidelines. So one of the voices I could hear was David, who was Nigel's coach, and he was screaming at me from the sidelines. And then there was another competitor from RGA. She was sighted. Bella, her name was, I think, and she was screaming at the top of her lungs because she was a bit closer. So her voice was like drowning out David's, but I didn't even know her or anything like that really. And then I come out and she was like, I was the one screaming at you. I was like, who are you? She's like, oh, I'm Bella. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, she's like, I'm from RGA. And I was like, oh, that was wicked. That was really helpful. Obviously, there was a couple of things I heard that were like keeping the pressure and keeping your hips low and stuff like that really did help.
Yeah.
And man, like, yeah.
It's such an awesome story. You know, the one thing I want to ask that we didn't really talk about, kind of going back to, you know, you spoke about what an incredible journey you went from 8 years ago, losing your sight, to then winning a world championship. Yeah. Sponsored with your, you know, the teams behind you, with the army behind you, everything.
Yeah.
You know, we haven't really spoken about how you sort of the effect that being blinded had on you, because it seemed that you just, even though you've spoke about it's hard, you know, it's hard to lose your independence, it's hard to do this, but you just seem to get on with it, which is kind of, I think when you're looking at the story, is one of the most inspirational things, that it didn't defeat you, it didn't beat you. And what was it that kept you going in those times when it was hard?
Maybe it's because I'm an atheist. I don't believe there's anything. I don't know or believe that there's anything after this life. I've no evidence of that. You've got one life. You've got one life to live, and I'm going to live it to the best that I can. You've like, you know, people, I've had my eyes ripped out my head. I've still got all my arms and legs. I told you about that guy in Afghan who had his arms and legs like blown off, and he was an Afghan National Army soldier, and he's got HIV, and like, I'm not happy because someone else is like in a worse situation than me, but life can be a lot worse, man. I could be
That's
living
what
in
Max said.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
He said he'd lost his legs and he was just about to feel sorry for himself, and then the guy next to him's lost his arms and his legs.
Yeah, exactly. There was guys I was in intensive care with. That Gurkha dead. He died in intensive care next to me. There's Sam. Sam's dead, man. What? How could I disrespect his memory, or the fact that, you know, there's a brother not coming home to a family. There's a son not coming home. He was a brother. He was a son.
Yeah.
He was, you know, he was someone's family. He was my family, and he didn't come back. Like hundreds of others didn't come back from Afghanistan, and it gets hard. It's really, really, really hard. I mean, everything's hard. I joked about how hard it is to date when you're blind, but like the whole dynamic of a relationship is different when your partner has to. You're a man. You're supposed to be the breadwinner and the independent one, and you're relying on your female partner to do so much for you. Yeah, and you know, a lot of aspects are very dark. I've never seen my son's face. I've never, you know, I'll never get to see my son's face in that. And you could sit there and think and bitch and whine all day about, oh, woe is me. And some days I do that, Matt. Like I'm not saying that I'm this like stoic character who can just roll with the punches, every punch he's taken. But remember I told you about David Rathband? Yeah. Well, within 18 months of being blinded, he hung himself. He you know, he had different pressures than I did and stuff like that. I remember seeing that on the news, and we were going through very similar things, and he'd hung himself. But that's not me, and we do have a massive problem with veteran suicide. Yeah, and if I can say, like, I'm wearing a veterans t-shirt about Warriors RV Ops Room. I don't know if you can see the symbol on it and stuff like that. So there's a support group out there called Warriors RV Ops Room on Facebook, and it's a Facebook group ran and to help guys when they're at their lowest. So you can contact someone and be like, look, I'm in a bad way, and they'll support you. And that's what, and they're not paid by the army, they're not paid by anything like that. I don't know where I'm going with this really, but if I can say anything to people who are feeling low and feeling at the end, you know, find your passion. And for me, that was Brazilian jiu-jitsu. That's brought me out of a lot of ruts. You know, life can be stagnant for me at some points. Brazilian jiu-jitsu is my passion. I love it. I can achieve with it. I feel bonds with people, and I've got a family, and I've got a support network, and I've got a social network now. All the things you need to live a healthy, rounded life. And no matter how dark and like brutal and miserable life becomes, there might not be anything else other than this. So find your happiness, find the bit of happiness in the day that you can, hold on to that, build on that, find that again tomorrow, build on that, put them together, start building your life up, and get out of whatever rut you're in, and find a way to be happy, because there are ways to be happy in this life. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, man. You know, that's a very important message. I think very well put as well, and a really nice place to leave the episode on. Yeah. But just kind of following on from that before, because I did want to mention it. You have an organization, kind of moving on from what you're saying, finding something, and that thing for you was jiu-jitsu. Yeah. You are a part of an organization with Mauricio, with Andy, with Seamus, called Support Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah. So tell us quickly about that.
So we're a network for veterans, and basically what will happen is, if you want to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and you think it will have a positive effect on your life, we can set you up with a local team that's been vetted and been basically a good group of lads who'll be able to teach you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You'll have the connections through Andy, and you'll have Seamus, and that's like a sort of connection to the British Army Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu team. You'll find a bond with lads there, who are all doing the same thing, and it can just give you an opportunity to get out of your headspace, and it's funded by the group Support Jiu-Jitsu, so we'll set you up with the trainers, and there's funding there, so you're not out of pocket and stuff like that. See how you find it, see where we're going with it, see if it's something for you. For me personally, it's changed my life. It has been absolutely phenomenal and integral to my self-esteem, the character who I've become, some of the strengths and pillars of support that I've now got to fall back on, life-saving and life-changing. You can reach it. If you look at the British Army Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu team on Facebook, you'll be able to contact them through there to talk more about it and connect with the lads. Have you got the email address?
I'll find the links for everything. Yeah, I'll find the site and the email address for Support Jiu-Jitsu as well.
Yeah,
brilliant. But that's for any military and emergency services, right?
I believe so. I believe it's and we've got guys. You don't have to be sort of physically injured or anything like that. If you need a support group, have you got PTSD or anything like that, we're finding it really helps and really works with mental health issues. For me, although the physical injury is there and it's given me an escape from the physical injuries, my mental health has been supported by it more than anything.
Yeah. Any last words before we finish off?
It's difficult. I've covered my whole life story pretty much, man. It's been good therapy for me. You're lucky you didn't have a guy breaking down at one point and going all. You weren't there, man.
Look. I think you've said you said a lot, and I just want to thank you for sharing your story. You said that you haven't really spoken about a lot of the stuff that you spoke about today, about the injury and about everything.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for being as open and as honest and sharing and I think that you have an incredibly inspiring story, and I'm honored to be able to help you get that story out, and hopefully other people listening to this can hear it and they can be inspired, and maybe it can change their life as well.
It was a real privilege and fantastic opportunity for me, so thanks.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you very much, buddy. Thank you. That is it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the episode and was inspired by it as I was. If you want to find out more about Rob or to follow his journey, you can find him on Facebook. His Facebook is Robert E.D. Long. You can find him on Instagram, where his handle is @red.long_, or you can find him on Twitter, where he seems to hang out the most, and his handle is @_red_long. I look forward to continuing to follow Rob's jiu-jitsu career, and continue to be inspired by him. I think the main thing that it goes to show is that regardless of whatever limitation you believe you have, or whatever limitation you believe is there, you can always find a way around it. So I think no one really shows that as effectively as he does. If you want to contact the podcast, as usual, you can email me, which is podcast@raspberryape.com. You can find me on Instagram or Twitter @raspberry_ape. You can find this video to this podcast and video to other podcasts and some other stuff at youtube.com/raspberryape, or check out my website, which is raspberryape.com. I think that's about it. Nice one, guys. I will catch you next time. Take it easy.